On?
We'll call to order our side of the commissioner's side of this meeting to order. Looks like all our commissioners are here present, so we're in session.
I'll call the council as part of the joint meeting on February 10th, 2022 at 10:05 approximately. There's 4 of us present. Diane and Lindy are not here and Ab is absent. All right, down to our list. I just kind of shot down some notes.
Actually, I guess the reasoning for this meeting is just to have a joint discussion of some topics that we've, I guess, need to discuss early in the year here, and come to some understanding or a decision on how we're going to handle certain things here. So I guess we'll just go through the beginning here. The Visitors Commission transitioning to a county department. I think it's been the State Board of Accounts for several years now. They've kind of dictated to us that that's the way we should be handling that, because they're receiving tax dollars, and technically right now their tax dollars are going to their account, and we do audit those through our auditor's office, but we don't have the funds are in an account that they have, not into the general fund or into the funds of county government. So I know we talked about it before about bringing them in, so I guess and even Mike Chester has came to us and said this is probably what needs to happen. So as far as how that has to happen, creating a new department within the county and a budget line for them. I mean, they have their budget now. I think it would just be a transition from what they're doing to us. And then as far as that, at that point, I know they they occupy space right now that's probably city property. Don't know how, that would transition from us having to supply them an office space, or if the city at that point would say, hey, we're going to rent you that space, or
and they actually pay rent now.
So they pay rent.
So it's budgeted.
Okay, so it's budgeted. So
And they have
all right, well, that's-
$272,000 sitting in an account. I don't know if you guys know that, but they keep a substantial amount in their line item every year. I mean, that's what they start with,
Yeah.
along with CDs and,
Yeah,
so
they,
they're
I'm sorry, how much did you say?
272,000.
and for people to understand is that they generate their income from hotel tax, a hotel keeper's tax, and that's how they generate their money. And it's been like that for probably 20 years or better. I don't know. Some of you guys might have been around then. But anyway, the discussion is to how to bring them into the fold. I think we should have done it, especially when the State Board of Accounts is telling us, it doesn't look kosher how you're doing it, and you need to probably clean that act up a little bit. So I'll entertain any comments, conversation, or anything else about it. So
I'd like to give you a little report that I've done, if I could. And the way it come about, what I've done, the reason it came about is a discussion between myself and Mike Chester during a budget. There's your council will remember the exchange we had. Mike said he'd been trying 2 years to find out whether or not he was, the commission was a county department, and he couldn't find out, and I told him I'd find out, and it wouldn't take me 2 years. So I started digging into the background, where it was formed and so forth, and Tammy helped me a lot on that. Thank you, Tammy. But ordinance 1996-4 by the council in 15th of October 1996 imposed the innkeeper's tax effective, January 1 of 97. And, I had researched primarily the commissioner's minutes, and this is what was found. On the 20th of July, 1998, Commissioner's Minutes, Volume 18, page 45, the auditor was instructed to call nominees, candidates for membership on the commission, council, or commission. Now, so that's, okay, what happened between 97 and 98? Well, we'll get to that. The 25th of August, 1998, Commissioner's Minutes, volume, don't have the volume, page number. 7 individuals was appointed to the commission on 20th of July, they were actually appointed the 25th of August, 1998. 7 individuals with staggered termination dates. And the next entry, minutes, volume 20, page 25, states that formal ordinance was needed to make record of previous decisions. So that was done on the 3rd of March 2003, Ordinance 2003-4, authorized the creation of a Visitors Commission effective 3 March 2003. So we already have a Visitors Commission. We already have a Visitors Commission. I've got the code, reference code numbers for all of these things, but we have a commission that's not properly organized or legally staffed. And I won't read the code numbers for all of these, but members after the initial appointment, members have to be reappointed every 2 years. We've not been doing that. And they must take an oath of office and file the oath of office with clerk of the court, and we've not been doing that. So Mike tells me, I went over all this with Mike Chester. And the city has some appointments based on the ratio of the population, city's population against the county. I haven't figured that, but I think it's probably 2 individuals. And they have a vacancy right now. If the appointing authority doesn't appoint a replacement to fill a vacancy within 30 days, the commission members can appoint anybody they want to. They've not done that with the city, but there is a city vacancy. Their code says what the commission can do. They can make contracts. They can make their own rules necessary to perform their business. And according to the State Board of Accounts, as you've alluded to, Mike, their employees are county employees. I have not discussed this with anybody except the auditors, president of the council, and Mike Chester.
So to summarize, what you're saying is that the county commissioners in '97 technically created a new department, but since then, nobody's really deemed it as a county department.
That it was appointed, the commission was formed, and the members were not not appointed by ordinance. They were appointed in 7 initial members were appointed by commissioner minutes.
Yeah, we as commissioners appoint 2 people to that board every 2 years. And,
Everybody needs to be appointed every 2 years.
yeah, we do that every 2 years. We either just
Who?
continue,
To the commission?
yeah. We have 2 people on that board every year on our list of people to appoint to boards. We have 2 people that are on the, tourism board, I guess it is. So, yeah, the commissioners have always appointed 2 people.
Where do you list who you appointed in the minutes?
It's
Yeah,
in the
it's always in
minutes.
the minutes on when kind of January, February of every year, or every 2 years.
But I'm not saying that it's perfectly attuned to, you know,
No, it
how
may
we've
not
been, but they do annual, even though it should be every 2 years. It's kind of like they're doing
Well-
probably more appointment times than they have to.
Actually, I asked Mike if that was being done, and he said no, so I didn't
Well,
come.
that is
And I-
true, but I mean, whether those people are all meeting with him might be a different story, but I'm assuming he's not over there.
I have a list of the current members for you if you
Yeah,
want.
well, I know our 2, I mean,
You have more than 2,
well, the 2, we only have 2.
but you wouldn't have 2 all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's all, I just wanted to.
Okay, well, to me, then if it sounds like in 97 that we, I say we, the Board of Commissioners at that time developed or created a tourism board, then I don't know how we go from this point on to determine how to, you said it's probably not properly structured to this date, but I know our 2 appointments on there, and if you're saying we have 4 appointments and they just rotate, I'm sure the council has a couple probably.
Well, after the initial appointment, the code said, then the appointment had to be staggered on the initial
Yeah.
appointment.
I get
Then it
that.
says, subsequent appointments will be for 2-year period.
Yeah. that's-
So
I think
every member has to be reappointed every 2 years.
We
Well,
don't
I
have
think
any
it's-
appointments.
Well, I think what it is that it's
And
whenever
on
we
the
went
bike-
from area plan to advisory plan, it was a similar type setup. We had to reappoint the board, but it had to be reappointed as an advisory board rather than an executive board. So that would take the hiring and firing, power that somehow down over time, whether there was a misperception of how it was to be handled, but the Visitors Commission was the one that actually took over the hiring and firing and whatnot of the Visitors Commission person. So that role of the board members would change then from an executive to an advisory board, just like the Plan Commission did. And then the county would actually have the person and or his staff as employees, and we'd create a department, and the innkeeper's tax then would fund the operation of that department, just like gas tax funds the highway.
At
So,
this point,
yeah.
then, if, you know, I'm not contradicting the minutes of the meeting in 97, but it sounds to me like we did form a department. Has it ran like that since? It doesn't sound like it has, but I guess at this point, how do we move forward? Do we, I mean, I know you just said it probably, or part of it, is that we determine that it's not an executive board anymore, it's an advisory board. Move, I guess, the hiring and firing back to the Board of Commissioners. But I guess the money part is, do we create a line item
It would
in
be
the
a-
auditor's office, or does, I mean, so their money would just drop into a line item and then,
Their operations would be funded, the revenue stream for them would be the innkeeper's tax. And then the budget would be created in that fund, and then the expenses would be just like claims like we do regularly here, because whenever and this is we've had so many, it's kind of like growing pains or something, because the Economic Development Corporation went dormant. And we took their funds in,
Yeah.
and then we paid leftover expenses, and, you know, there's an audit procedure, because they're still trying to hang on to their not-for-profit status on that side. Well, this is the area that they're not evidently delving into that. They considered that at one time to where we would contract and use innkeeper's funds to contract, and then the visitors commission would have a corporation, and that would be not-for-profit, but anyway, that, I don't think that's the direction that State Board of Accounts is seeing us going in. They're saying they're a county department. So it would be a matter of basically probably calling those board members in and having a meeting with the commissioners and you guys discussing, and you guys, once you make your decision to pursue getting them to become a county department, then, you know, we'll obviously have to do a job description and get those HR things cleaned up, but the other stuff could be going on as far as like getting the board reestablished. If there's somebody that wants to remain on the board and it's y'all's pleasure, you can reappoint them to the advisory board, and we could get established correctly, under current statute, and
They
put
are
them on the
county
salary
boards
ordinance.
right now.
That's
They are.
That's from the minutes of the meeting in 97. They're already, I guess, what Wayne said, I mean, I think we're already there. We just haven't, it's almost like the regional sewer development, or regional sewer board.
2003
We
was
just haven't done
the
the right
ordinance,
thing.
but it went back.
But I mean, I guess my thought on that is we appoint or a person or two people, is the only two I've ever seen come up. So if there's 7 people on the board, I'm assuming that we probably have 2, the council may have 2, and the city of Scottsburg may have 2.
We don't have any.
But,
We don't make any appointments.
I need to look at code, because it could be just that they're not on your list.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
what,
not
that's
saying
what I've
it's a
been asking,
typo. I mean,
why,
it could be an omission.
why we don't have any every year.
Council.
I really honestly don't, this was
Council doesn't
established
have
way
any
before.
unless you wanna give it to them.
Yeah, we're going back to the 90s
Well, but
here.
I mean, I think since there's tax money involved, I think that the council ought to have at least 1 or 2 people on that board. I mean,
And we'll have to look at the code to see who plays, because the code will dictate. And it could be just that over time, since that board was more of an executive board, that the appointment thing just somehow got left off, because we're talking about 30 years here.
so I guess, John, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think we discussed it, that my concern all along was, we'll keep the same employees over as we have, one. And the appointment of the board, and you're trying to correct that now, who should do what. But I know we're doing 2 every 2 years, but I really couldn't tell you that we're not doing the same 2 every year.
Yeah, as
It
long
may
as-
be 2 different ones every. So those 4 may be corrected you're talking about, Raymond, I'm not sure.
As long as we make State Board of Accounts happy. They
Yeah.
want it, they either want a detailed list, like Mike and them, if they're gonna be county, they want a detailed list where they can see where the money's being spent. Or if they go nonprofit, we just show, like Tammy said, we send them a lump sum and then we're clear. So you guys, if you wanna meet with them and,
I'd rather leave it like it is, but I mean, Randy, what's your thoughts?
I think the visitor commission is something that's going to play a very big role in our future here in the county, because, you know, with the last report we just received, you know, how we're doing our money, we gotta bring money into this county somewhere or another, somewhere. And how do you do that? You either bring people in or get them to want to move here, or you bring in entertainment. So I'm more of the opinion that we probably need to bring that into the county so we can start pushing that to try to bring in more money to the county.
I think we need to be more involved with their board, because if you look at their budget, like what we were looking at, like spending wise, and I asked Mike Chesser for a detailed analysis at the thing, and all he brought in was like these little lump sums, line items. And I said, no, I want a breakdown. You know, if you buy these billboards, where are they at? Which ones are you doing? How many do we have? What are you getting to? And there was like 15,000 that we spend over at Salem Speedway. And we do a box. So we get a, whatever you call it, the box seats. And then they do, it's, we'll talk more about it later, but I mean, it's like the people that are getting the tickets are people that already know about it. So we're not drawing anybody in, so it's not really, hey, you know, let's call this company and get them in here and give them some free seats to the races. It's like people from our community that are already know about it, doing it, that are taking advantage of this. So we need to run that a lot different.
Well, the
And
other
then
part of that is I agree with
better
you.
advertisement.
That, I saw where we, and I say we, Scott County Tourism sponsored a race at Salem Motor Speedway, which is fine. But because I know getting off the interstate, they're gonna eat at our restaurants, they have the capability to eat in our restaurants. Years ago, before Salem had 3 or 4 hotels now, but before they didn't have any, so everybody that raced over there stayed here. Whether that's happening now or not, but I can see the draw of doing that, but I was kinda shocked when I saw that we were sponsoring a race somewhere else, and I understand the pass-through, but.
When we have a
it would've been
racetrack
nice to
here.
have somebody come here and say, hey, here's our intentions, or here's what we're thinking, so I think we're all in agreement that if what Raymond's saying is factual, and I think it is, that we already have it set up through the Board of Commissioners. We need to clean up, who our board members are on there, and I mean all of them, even the cities, because I knew people that used to be on that board, but, you know, they've passed away since, and, but I do know I think one of the requirements we always had, that one of them had to be someone associated with one of the hotels in town, which is Mr. Patel right now, so.
There's a requirement for what they
Yeah,
have.
and that's what I'm saying, there was a requirement. Buddy Pearl used to be, when they first created the thing, Buddy was on it for years. So it's always there are some criteria of who has to be on that board, but I think what we do is find out who the board members are, clean up that mess of hey, who's appointing these people, and if it comes to the council doesn't have a appointment on there, I think they need one, at least one, if not 2, but let's just clean it up, and if it's bringing their money into the auditor's office to be audited and stuff, then I think we do that. So I don't know the steps right now to do all that outside of going the same way we did with area plan, of saying we're changing you from an executive board to an advisory board, and probably have to do that, you know, some sort of legal way in a meeting, that we're saying, you know, we're changing the dynamics of the board and your responsibilities.
And as the person who's gonna have to make sure that the transition happens and do this, I mean, my personal feeling is I would love to have a target date put on this. So if this is something that we can see can be reasonably done by June 30th, I think that would make a clean cutoff time, and July 1, that we're doing their claims in this office.
I think
And,
that's more than acceptable.
you know, so, and that way State Board of Accounts, if they're in here audit process, they know we're addressing and we're in the process, because we really got a couple, 3 years in a management letter, and that's kind of just a sidecar, like, this is kind of a pre-warning, and then you get a warning, and then you get a write-up. So I think we want to be in a good faith effort mode when State Board of Accounts comes in here to audit this time.
Well,
So,
I would like to know, you know, I guess from Mike Chesser, who, how their board members are, you know, how he thinks they're who's appointing the 7 members right now,
I
Well,
because,
can look
he
up
told
the
us
code
during
on
budget
that.
that when one goes off, they just kind of nominate a new one to fill that position. So it hasn't ever, it lost structure too. Just,
I guess,
They
all but
gotta
ours. I
be, they
mean,
gotta
we
be
appoint
formally
ours.
appointed, they gotta take an oath of office, and they gotta file the oath of office with the clerk of the court.
Cause right here it's showing Don Cooper, Jessica Jones, Umaine Patel, David Wells, Todd Ritchie, president, Joe Gibson, treasurer, and right here it has, Sherry Lewis marked out, and it says a vacant seat for the city of Scottsburg.
We see Patel and Todd Ritchie are too.
Yeah, I got the commissioners.
I just wrote on your paper.
And I think they literally get appointed
I'm on
instead of
the
every
notes.
2 years, you guys just re-up them every year.
Yeah, we
So
just-
we're
Todd.
over-appointing.
Yeah, we pretty
Yeah.
much, every year,
Patel.
we, you know, if they come to us and say we, you know, most of the time those boards are difficult to fill in the first place. But most of those are, like I said, the Patel has to be there because he's a owner of a hotel.
Well, I was just kind of shocked when we went over the budgets, and like I said, the breakdown of like, they're sitting on 272,000 every go, pretty much. And at the end of the year, they still have a substantial amount of money there. And then they put that over on a CD, or, you know, they have more than enough money. If something happened, the CD will cover like a year expensive. Say we went through COVID again or something like that. So I was just kind of, like, they, for the frolic, they gave like $1,200. To our stuff, they gave minimal dollars of advertising
And they
stuff.
make it very, very difficult for people like the Fair Board to.
Yeah, and then the Fair Board
Very
had
difficult.
like 3,500. So something that's gonna bring more money into our county, you think we would've spent like at least 8 or 10,000 to get people here to our races, our demos, our stuff, instead of
Well,
going next door.
I think at that point, what they need to do, just like other boards would have to, especially, they're a specialty board, in my opinion. I mean, their functions could change. I mean, so I think in the future, what I'd like to see happen if it can, well, because it's going to come into the county fold, is that they come with a plan of where they're going to spend their money throughout the year.
And that was, I'm sorry I was late, but, so if they, since they are, or they could potentially be, and that those, we start paying their claims, and there will be like every other, they have to come in front of us, as sort of the council, to access or to,
Well, they had a nice detailed budget, but it's not, like, none of it's being,
but,
Yeah, well,
but, so that's what,
crazily
that's then
spent
what
on
they would
anything.
do, is they would have to come in just like everybody else and say, hey, you
Yeah,
know, this is
well,
what.
that's what I said. I mean, they have to, I'm sure those festivals and things that they, you know, they're spending that money 6 or 8 months in advance, or, you know that we're gonna spend money on X, Y, Z. And I'm sure there's a pot of money that they have for those pop-up items that, you know, hey, somebody comes to them and says, can you help us here? But I think they, you know, like you said, I think they come back into the fold of the county government, and you know, they file a budget just like the other people file budgets, and their money comes in. I guess I didn't know how it was formed in the beginning, but it sounds like it technically was formed
Well, you
correctly.
need to look at Indiana Code 6-9-18. That spells it out. Pretty much,
So-
exactly what has to be done.
so you're gonna send a message to Chesser and to the board?
Well, what probably needs to happen is the next commissioners meeting, you all make a motion, as you so move, to proceed with this, and then
With a
call for a
deadline.
meeting with the visitors commission board as it
Nothing
stands
we have
now.
to do.
Since
And
it's
then have a
advertised,
meeting.
can they do it today? So we can get this on a roll?
And there's nothing the commissioners have to do except to make sure the members are properly appointed, and that then the commission members and Mike Chesser know that they are a department of the county and have to perform just like all the other departments.
Well, I
And
think,
by the way, let me say that when I talked to Mike, I emphasized to him that I was not representing the council or the commissioners. I was doing it because of a conversation between he and I.
yeah,
And I told him, I said, I have proof that you are a member. The commission is a department of Scott County government. If you disagree, it's up to you to prove otherwise.
well, I'm gonna make a
And that was
motion.
me as an individual, not the commissioner.
I'm gonna make a motion to move this forward. Sounds to me like it is already a county department.
They are.
We have failed in the, I guess, the structure of it. And if someone or whoever deemed it being a tourism executive board, it should have not been termed that way. It should have been termed as an advisory board to the commission. To seek to change that, and also to put a deadline of June the 30th for this all to be this transaction to be moved back to the county, I guess totally to the county government, and funds transferred and everything else back to the auditors, or to the auditors, because it never was at the auditor's office, but just to, I guess, kind of clean it up a little bit and form a board. It might be the same board, it might be they're all happy with who they got, but I want to get a structure of, you know, who's the board members, who's appointing them, and again, I think since it's a tax dollar that's going into these, well, it's not tax dollars, it's motel tax, but it is a tax that's being collected by this county. I think the commissioners need appointments, the council needs appointments, the city of Scottsburg, and I guess I would have to look and see if the city of Austin may have something. I mean, I know they don't have a
I
hotel or
don't
anything, but.
think their population, or according to the code, I don't think Austin have any appointments.
Who's come up with the magic number of 7?
That's just usually what board, so there's a,
The code, and the Indiana code.
why there's 7 people, that's just what they came up with to be a good,
No, the code,
I
the
haven't
code
looked
says
at that
so.
code.
well, that's what I mean, but the state,
Some boards,
has
some
mandated
boards
that
gives
7
you
is-
leeway, you have 5 or 7.
Right.
But it tells you if you do 5, you gotta do it this way, if you do 7, you gotta do it this way. So at some point in time, in 97, it must have been code to have 7 members if you had a visitors commission. It may have been adjusted now, I can pull the visitors commission code and, take a look at the composition like today's code. It still could be very well 7 members.
Well, if
So-
it's not, I mean, I think the more people you have on a board like this, the better. The more ideas, the better. So,
If we can deviate from code, then we can go from there, but I'll look it up and see, because that'll be part of your all's next move, will be to probably look at those members and reappoint, and talk to the board, because that was precursor to this meeting, back a couple years ago. We met with some members, and I sat in on a discussion. Todd Ritchie was there, Don Cooper was there, Mike Chester was there, and the president of the boards back then, and talked with them. And, you know, there's gonna be it's gonna be an adjustment mentally if you're a board member as to what your role is now.
Yeah.
My only thought was that, I've discussed with Mike several times, and other several people, but I think we at least deserve to give them the right to come to our meeting next Wednesday if they have different thoughts to express them to us. They're not here today, and I think they deserve the right to defend themselves.
to do what though? We have to do something with
I don't
them.
know, that'd be up to them to tell us what they want to tell us.
Well, they've had 2 years.
If I'm hearing right now, it's already our policy, we don't have to create a policy if they're under us, it's already there. But if they have some thoughts that we don't agree with, or they don't agree with, they ought to have the right to tell us. I don't have to see a problem with waiting till next Wednesday.
Well, I'm not saying that either, but what I'm saying is that, we can move this forward and put a deadline on it and say what we're gonna do, but, I don't know that there's a conflict, I guess, because you're saying to defend themselves. I mean, I don't know what's to defend, I mean.
Well, I don't know, we're making discussions here that they're not in here to talk about.
But again, let me clarify something. The county government runs the boards don't run the county government. So,
I never said they did.
but everybody wants to say, well, why don't we call so-and-so and see if they're all right, if they're on the board or not? That's not it's not their prerogative to be one or the other. It's this board creates boards, or the council and the commissioners create boards, and those people serve at our pleasure. I mean, if they don't want to be on the board, then don't be on the board. But if we want to replace somebody on the board for one reason or the other, then that's our choice. I mean, but the other part is, I don't know what Mike's gonna say negative. I mean, because everything I've seen is that he's wanting this.
Well, in
And I
budget
think-
time, he was all over Raymond saying that they were not part of the county, didn't he, when he came in?
Well, I get it.
I
And
think
that's been
everything
an
you're
argument
right,
for
but
years.
I don't see what 1 week would make a difference.
Well, I don't, hell, let's wait till next week then.
That would be my,
I mean, but him being here is not gonna make a difference in what is being said. I mean,
how I feel about it, I mean, the hotel tax, we're giving them to run this department. I think it's, you know, we have every right to bring that into our government and decide on whether or not, you know.
The Indiana
is this
code can
department
tell you
fit?
what you can do and what you can't do. And it'll tell you what the commission can do.
I get that. Well, I'll just,
It's a convention.
I guess I'll rescind my motion and say we'll wait till next Wednesday, and Mike can be invited and put him on the agenda to be here, and we'll do the same thing next Wednesday we're gonna do today, so.
So I'll just put them on the agenda then.
Yeah.
And even if you don't wanna come, we'll just do what we're doing.
Okay, onward to the EMS positions and finances.
All right, I got a question about that because I'm not on the council and I'm not a money person and I don't know the ins and outs of budgets. But I wanna, after speaking with Eric for about an hour one day on the phone, we were talking, well, on every day we talk about it. On this particular day, we were talking about, because I kept hearing the $700,000 thing to the EMS. I heard $700,000 to the EMS, and I guess my brain moves a little slower than some people's, but I guess the timing of what we still owed Stryker, which was roughly $700,000, and I guess I'm gonna throw a scenario out there, I guess, of what my brain's thinking, and I want somebody to tell me you're wrong.
It
or
has nothing to do
whatever.
with Stryker.
But how did $700,000 get thrown into a budget, you know, or an increase in the budget? Let me just take out the $700,000. How did the increase to the EMS budget happen from the previous year? I mean,
The year before, we had taken $282,000. We took their life insurance, we took their liability, what else? Group health. We took the biggest lump sums that we could, instead of taking like salaries and moving them over, to keep them out of the red. So we already budgeted, this is the second year we've taken 280-some thousand off their budget to keep them out of the red. So that's almost 300,000 of that. And then this time around, after their budget came back, whenever
who proposed the budget?
Teresa got the next one, they did. We cut them down to almost bare minimum, and that's what they had to have with the third truck on there. So whenever we came down to it, I think it's right at 400,000
But they've got it.
that we've got to move over and move to some separate accounts.
My question is, here's where I go with that. The previous year, you know, and I know that the EMS director came to the commissioners and said, I want to buy an ambulance, and my question is always, do you have the money? And the question was, yes, I have the money, or I'm going to apply for a grant, and we approved, you know, that part. At the end of the year, when everything fell apart, I guess we ended up with, you know, 4 or 5 new ambulances. And I guess where I'm going with that is that in the next year, if you don't have to purchase any big ticketed items, I don't understand how somebody can throw in a budget that is increased from the previous year when you're not buying anything. You're not buying any big ticketed items. You're paying for your basics, you're paying for your benefits, you're paying your wages, you're paying utilities, you're paying insurance. I mean, you're paying those basic, hey, I need to operating expenses, I guess is a good word. And you're not having any big ticketed items out here that you have to pay for, but yet your budget increases, you know, from the previous year. And I guess, looking at the form that Jason gave everybody the other day, again, I took basic business in high school with Jim Barley, but a parentheses around something usually means a subtraction or something else, but, you know, but they still showed $400-some thousand at the end of the year.
Because in the budget, we have 3 accounts. We have special purpose lit, and
I'm not
then,
talking about lit, I'm talking about the EMS and budget.
but that's where we have to pull to
Sure.
make their budget.
Their home rule fund doesn't have enough revenue to cover all the expenses that was proposed.
I get
So the overflow goes into lit, because it's public
But I guess
safety.
I'm going back to the
Well,
initial
that's the
budget.
question, I think, is don't get too, you know, we approved, I guess, I don't recall it, but we did, we approved 1.9 million.
No. No, we made them cut it.
They proposed it.
Okay, well, what did the state get from us that we approved?
1.4.
Okay, so where did the 1.9 come from?
Here's my
I
whole
don't know, 'cause
scenario with this
I have
thing.
1.
So
You're
if we approved 1.4 and sent it to the state, and said cut it back to 1.2, then why do we have to worry about 700 or 400 or whatever thousand?
Because
that
need
was-
more than 1.4 to run on. And just kind of bear with me for just 1 second, because I have thought about this and thought about this and thought about this. In 2020, we put on a third truck. And to me, you guys are gonna just have to make a decision as a county which way you
Hang on a
wanna
second
go.
before you go any farther. I'm the one that asked, the commissioners proposed putting the third truck on, and I called Pat and asked Pat, do you have enough money in the budget to put a third truck on? And she gave, 2 days later, she calls me back, she goes, Mike, we'll have we'll have $14,000 or $15,000 left in our budget line to run it to the end of the year. So, the first year that happened, they had money, so it
And that's
wasn't,
okay.
there wasn't anything in the hole.
Because you had $150,000, what I recall in that budget for a remount. So that's how you funded personal services, was from remount money that was not spent that year. But in 2021, we had a remount. Okay, so then you're talking about another 150,000. So that year is kind of when that year closes, it closes. And that's kind of what you're seeing when Jason Simler gave you that comprehensive review. That, it shuts down, and you've got so much money left at the end of that year. Then that money is considered seed money to look at your budget, because they go back 18 months, and then they look at that and they say, okay, can you afford? So if you had $500,000 left over, we'll pretend at the end of the year, the next year, if you look back over the last 18 months, you're a little more solid, so you move into the situation with more money like in your savings, okay? So then if you propose a budget that's $500,000 higher than the year before, you're gonna break even. Does that make sense? Because you've been able to increase your expenses because you've got remaining revenue that you did not use from the year before. Because when the state looks at you, they say, when you say I'm gonna spend 1.4 million, you're spending 1.4 million. They don't look at you as having anything left over to move forward to the next year. But if you are lucky and you do, that only helps pump you up for either more expenses or more savings, whichever way you go. So what happened in 2021 is we continued to, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, that is not what I'm saying, but we continued to increase our personal services and EMS by 50%, not a third, 50%. We were running 2 trucks, and we put 1 more truck on, which is 50% in expenses and personal services for 21, okay? So did we get 50% more revenue by adding that 3rd truck?
How would it be 50%?
Because 2 and half of 2 is 1. You added 50% to your expenses. Okay, but did we get 50% more in revenue? Or did we just divide our work by thirds?
Because
See what I'm saying?
the 3rd truck adopted 281,000. That's what it takes to put personnel on that truck.
And I don't care whether we have a 3rd truck or not, as far as if it provides a level of care to this county, and this is where I'm going with the second thing, you're at a Y in the road. You either continue to operate the 3rd truck full-time and accept the financial responsibilities in lit tax. Does that make sense? Because it's gonna flow over into lit, because they do not have the billing for their medical runs to support a 3rd truck.
So where did the 281,000 for a 3rd truck come from? Who generated that income?
That's their wages and salary to cover the 3rd truck, because we had to do
Okay,
a
so did you
full
figure out-
paramedic.
Did you figure if they were calling part-time people in? or-
They said no, they would not use part-time people for that. It's in my minutes, because I looked it
get
up.
that, but what I'm saying is that, you know, in the real life, in the real world, that if we have 2 ambulances running daily, and all of a sudden we have 4 transfers that we have to do, and so they go to their on-call, people will call them in, then you're paying overtime. So, figure out what you would have been paying in overtime for a third truck to run, because it's gonna happen, and it was happening. Or you're gonna pay a basic, okay, we're gonna hire a third truck, and we're gonna fund a third truck, versus we're gonna call overtime in every day for 365
Well, in the
days.
minutes,
But you're talking
in
about
the minutes,
457
you said that we would look at it
matches
6 months
health
later, that
insurance
we would start the third truck, 6 months later, you guys would evaluate it and see if it was making money. That those people, either they were taking a chance, cause we hired different people for that third truck, that they wouldn't use any of the part-time people, that those people would be for the third truck, and that if the third truck didn't work and we weren't making money, then those people knew that they were taking a chance on going on that third
Oh, I
truck.
know that was the end of the
So
year.
that was the big kicker, but
Well,
But
we haven't looked at it.
with the Y in the roles, you're either, it is important for us to keep this third truck going full-time, and we accept the financial responsibility of that, which means that the lit tax is gonna have to kick in to cover that unless the revenues go up. So are we increasing, how much did our revenues go up because we were able to do additional runs or transfers with that third truck? Or are we just dividing our work by 3? That's my question, as somebody that's just looking surely at the paperwork and surely at the concept of we've increased our expenses by 50% in personal services, but have we increased our revenue by 50%?
okay, well, I'm gonna ask Nick to find out what it costs exactly, and then I'm gonna ask him to answer that question you just did. What was the budget for EMS in 2021?
My guess is
Because I looked at it, Eric
1.6
had
maybe,
Teresa, I think, pull up profit and loss
because
statement.
it was
That way
1.4 plus 3 from, it was 1.6 or 1.7.
Published was 1.6, but
Okay.
we adopted 1.4.
So in 20.
No, hold on. That's 22. Where'd my 21 go? 21 was 1.6.
So we went from 1.6 the year before to 1.4 the next year.
And I'm not saying the third truck is not a great thing, because believe me, if it was my family member
Well,
and the
hold
third
on.
truck,
We-
it would be
No, that
awesome.
makes
No,
But-
that doesn't sound right.
How do you
We're
go
gonna
back?
cost, it's gonna cost us $700,000 to cut them by $200,000. Somebody got that.
Because we had to cut their budget, that's how it went backwards.
Well, I get that, but I mean, historically, that doesn't happen.
But historically, we've never been in this position.
I get that.
So we're kind of in a brand new world.
And that's where I'm going with, is that, we have never put EMS on a tax roll ever. I mean, and for the last 2 years we have, and I'm not saying, just like Raymond said in the last meeting, they'll get their stuff in order. I mean, but we got a hole to dig out of to get there. And I'm just trying to figure out, the numbers, I guess, because, $1.9 million is out of.
How much
So
was
we're-
proposed for the lease payment, whenever you mentioned Stryker, how much was proposed for the lease payment? Cause see, that added a little bit
233,000
Each
for
year?
3 years.
for 3 years. So there
And
could be
that's where-
half of what we're talking
But
about,
what-
that
but
400.
But here
Yeah.
again is where I brought up 700,000 a while ago. When you guys, and I said you guys, the council, when the council was negotiating the budgets in August and September, EMS knew that they had a $700,000 debit that they were gonna have to pay. So did they come with theirs, in that money in there, and this is me thinking again, that they know a vendor's gonna send us an invoice for $700,000. It's 600 and something. So when they proposed their budget, they had to put that in there because it was coming. They just couldn't say, I'm not gonna put it in
Are
there
you talking
because.
about for all the trucks and the strikers?
I'm talking about the Stryker invoice that was 600 and
If
some odd thousand
if I
dollars.
recall, we asked multiple times for that contract and what we owed. and
We didn't have anything on it.
We never got anything, nobody ever told us what we owed, and.
I'm not saying you didn't.
No, I'm saying, and
just
so
saying
it
when they
was
were-
not, no, and that's what I'm saying, we kept asking.
They
for
didn't
it.
know what the bill was.
They didn't know what it
Oh, they
was.
knew what it was.
Well, we
They're
can only,
lying, they were lying.
we can only go off what they're telling us, and so if they don't tell us that that's what's gonna be in our budget, and we've asked
I
and
get
asked and
that,
asked.
but what I'm saying is, that's, I think they put it in their budget to pay it, because that bill was coming. I mean, and it's still coming, I mean, so.
All right, so 2021 requested budget was 2.1 million. The total budget, 1.6.
Wow.
So they requested 2.1,
All right, so I
but they
want
only approved 1.6.
to throw something.
So then that's why we had to go back and make cuts the year before,
I'm gonna throw something out here.
and that was a
Okay?
decent year.
I've only been a commissioner for 1 year. In that 1 year, I've yet to see, the budget for EMS, how much they've made, how much they spent, and how, how many hours is on their vehicles, how, the forecast of how long the vehicles are gonna last, and when them vehicles are going to become due to be replaced. Are they gonna have the money, let me rephrase it, are they gonna have the money to pay for them vehicles themselves? I don't believe in micromanaging every department that the county has, but
You have
EMS
to. This is your
has a
business.
rocky past, and I think that it needs to be micromanaged just a little bit. I think that
You need a
that report
detailed
needs to
profit
be come to
loss.
us, and it needs to go to you guys, and everybody knows exactly how much they're making, how much they got at the beginning of the year, where they going to the end of the year.
Are there
And,
revenues
and just to
coming from?
summarize, and I'll shut up, but it's, are we going to fund them to keep the third truck? Are we going to look at alternatives to a full-time third truck? Or, again,
I think
where are
that's
we
what
at on
tells
that?
that.
So I think it's great for the public safety and the health of our citizens to have 3 trucks. That is the most important thing we can look at here. But we have to decide, can we afford that third truck? How much of a third truck can we afford? And also, is it worth using lit tax? Or how can we improve, like Raymond said, cut the expenses? Is a place we can cut expenses? Well, personnel and medical supplies are 2 biggies, right? I mean, that's what you need to have an ambulance service, so I don't know how lean they can get. So again, those are things that I'm looking at. We're at that Y in the road, okay? How do we operate a third truck, but be fiscally responsible in the process?
I think
And
that-
that's where we're at to me.
I think that report that I'm talking about will tell us that.
Will help you.
I don't believe that when they came in with the budget, that I recall that they ever mentioned or had a line for, hey, this is what, with contracts we've got coming up. It was never in there.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out who even presented the budget, because Shannon was gone at the time.
Kyle and Pat.
That's, yeah. I get it, but that's,
You know, so,
but everybody but the commissioners knew there was a invoice coming that nobody knew about until.
everybody
later.
but the commissioners?
Well, I'm not saying you guys knew
I was
about
like,
it.
we didn't know.
I'm saying everybody, people knew that there was a bill out there that wasn't gonna, they had the money not to pay, or didn't have the money to pay for.
If they kept it from us, then they're gonna have to reap the benefits of it, we're gonna have to figure out, they're gonna have to figure out in their budget that they have, how
Well,
to
and
pay
that's
for
where
it.
the commissioners, after the budget was submitted and sent to the state, that's when the commissioners and our attorney negotiated with Stryker to return some equipment that they initially said they wouldn't return any of it. I think we ended up getting $165,000 or something of it sent back. And then, and we sold a couple of items to some other departments within the, in Scott County. And then we negotiated the rest of it in 3-year payments to, to their satisfaction. So, so that's a $233,000, I guess, invoice that's coming sometime.
So are you
Well,
guys
if
keeping a
they're-
closer eye on Nick, so we can't get in this situation again?
Well, and if they're
Next
paying
week.
them,
Well,
if they're selling that ambulance by chance, then,
Well, yeah, and
then I guess that's where that money's gonna go to.
that's why I'm asking for a report, so we can keep.
I mean,
well, what I wanted was, and Eric got it, and I thought I had it with me, but I don't. But Eric had Teresa, I think, get a profit and loss statement from, that went all the way back to 2019, showing, here's the revenue, and I'm a simple person. It's revenue and expenses. They've got to either match or get close every year, and
But what we need is a detail, we need to know where the revenue's coming from, what types of runs are we need a detailed revenue, profit loss, just a general, that's great, but as a business, we need a detailed profit loss, we need to know, you know, their personnel, what they pay out, we need to know details.
I get that. But
And, well, we've asked and we've never got, so.
have you asked recently?
Yes.
Oh, did we ask Nick?
Yes.
Well, then, I mean, like I said.
John, did you make it out there and tell him what all we wanted?
He's on his way up here. He
Nick is?
didn't know about it.
But anyway, that's where I'm at, is because if you don't bring in enough money, then you're gonna have to supplement somewhere else, and that's where I've always said, and that's why I guess, you know, from the inception of EMS, it's always paid for itself, and when it started when the backdoor conversation started, oh, it's not paying for itself, that's when I'm like, why isn't it paying for itself? And
Well, it was.
the obvious reason is that you're spending more than you're bringing in. And if you can't curtail your spending, then you're not gonna have money at the end of the year. I mean, just like everybody's household, you can't spend more than you're bringing. And that's where I wanna know, just like you're saying, that's why Eric and I were looking at a profit and loss statement. And I don't know how detailed, they may have had wages and everything on there, I can't remember.
I think it was just yearly income loss, I mean, there were some other details in there, but I don't know what exactly they were.
But I do know from after the fact type of stuff is that, it was like wide open, just
It was
whatever we
a
want to
bad
spend,
year.
just spend it. And, I mean, that goes from people that were installing equipment on vehicles to, I mean, I'll get as basic as a wrap on a vehicle that we were told it was 2,500, 3,000, ended up 45 to 5, and, you know, and even though that's a few $1,000s, if that's how it's being ran, then it's all being ran that way, so, so anyway, that's where I'm at with it. I'm just trying to figure out, you know.
Well, that's what happened the first year.
Because the run volumes isn't going down. It says Raymond gave all the run reports the other day. Those aren't going down, and quite honestly, we're probably recouping more money now off of invoices and runs than we were in the past.
It's gonna get better because we paid off most of the debt now. I mean, there was a lot of extra spending that was,
Oh, that's stupid.
it was beyond what they could have ever filed, so that's why we had to take on extra. So then whenever the 400,000 came back up, I was like, you've gotta be kidding me, because we already had to make an additional at the end of the year, because you couldn't put it in special purpose. You know, you can budget for it, but you can't like do it for EMS, so it had to be done at the first of the year. So once we did that, and then we came back and seen that, you know, they still need a little more help.
Yeah,
So hopefully next year, they're gonna be back to
I get that.
back to basics.
Like I said,
We'll have them back, so.
And I mean, I'm gonna say this.
But that third truck is gonna be questionable.
Well, and if Nick is coming up here, I would ask him to get the number. If Tammy's saying the 281 for the third truck is the number, then I guess I would like to know, and this would have to be some research, but going back and saying, okay, if you didn't have a third truck and had to call people in, what was that expense gonna be? Because you can't just say it costs 281 because it doesn't cost 281. Because it could cost us $165,000 to call part-time people in to run those runs that they're gonna have anyway. So it's, you know, the correct number somewhere between 281 and whatever the other number is, because it's not zero, because you're going to spend money on people to call them in to run a third truck and a fourth truck throughout the day on a normal day. So if you're budgeting for it and you're doing the opposite, then there's a difference there, and that difference is what, you know, it would cost us. I mean, so.
That lease payment will help. I mean, whenever we get past, I mean, it is a time will help in a lot of this situation, because that lease payment will eventually go away. That'll take some of the expense off.
And again,
And there was a lot of things that we thought that were billed for FEMA that didn't come through, so that,
Well, I mean, but you can't assume payment.
well, exactly.
You can't
So I mean,
assume.
we've gotta keep eyes on them closer so they don't get that little idea in their head that they
You can't
can
assume
buy
that
whatever
you're
they
getting-
want.
You can't assume that you're getting a grant when you don't get the grant.
Exactly.
And you can't spend it until you get it.
And if you don't have it in your budget line, then you
Yeah,
shouldn't
well,
be able to purchase
That's a
anything.
question, again, that's a question I ask every time, is, do you have the money? And do you have the money in your account? And if you don't, then where are you getting it? You know, so.
What,
A couple of bits
Hold
of
on.
info.
hold on, she has a question.
I just had a question, I've been going to some of these
No,
meetings on EMS and different things.
There's no-
I know that, when, let's see, I guess I'll say Shannon, when he was in there, and he was gonna try to spend money, and he was gonna get these grants for all the ambulance and everything, which he didn't produce. Okay, and then we knew he was in failure then to a certain point of that year. Well, then when, Kyle was actually thrown into the position or whatever, he took the position as director. Now, when he did his budget, was there another set of eyes? I mean, I know
It
he was
wasn't,
just,
it wasn't.
how
his
much did
budget.
he know to make the budget out correctly is what I'm saying? Was there another set of eyes watching him at the time?
Teresa worked with him and Pat.
Saying it was okay, I mean, he was gonna be okay for that year, last year, correct?
It's this year.
Yeah, well, this year.
And there's another factor in there, Marcella, you send it up to the state, and then they analyze, and they give you the feedback, which obviously is that we've got to cut. And Teresa, matter of fact, she just walked down here, but there's a whole process, and then council ultimately is the one that looks at it, and they agree or disagree to send the numbers to the state for them to put their eyes on it, and then it comes back to us, and then we deal with what the state says, you know, that they've determined that needs to be done. So,
So when he was in that position, basically, then you did have some more eyes on him.
oh yeah, it's a
Teresa
very,
And then, okay, that's what I was
Not
wondering
necessarily,
about.
I mean, he had people working very closely with him.
And I know
helping him.
everything's almost doubled or tripled too, the supplies that they're dealing with, because of COVID. I mean, I don't know if they even budgeted for that. I don't know how much they budget per year for something, you know, that may happen.
and there's, you know, and you're right, factors change from year to year, just
Right.
like Mike was talking, that one year we could afford it because we had a remount in there, that they pulled money down from the remount line to pay for that third truck. And obviously with COVID, I keep blaming a lot of stuff on COVID, but there is so much uncertainty and has been over the course of time, that you do the best you can, and like again, the heart was there because we want all the medical care we can have for our county.
Right.
But you also have to kind of look back and say, okay, but what can we do? I mean, it's kind of like, you know, everybody's health and well-being is our biggest concern,
But I believe
can
the
we
way
afford
that-
it?
I believe, I don't know if you guys checked any of that out, but Washington County was in pretty bad debt when Nick went over there to take over. I believe if you guys give Nick a fair chance, I think he'll turn it around.
And that's another
And
thing
work
with
with him
time.
and
Yeah.
listen to him, not just be, I don't think just be one-sided. I mean, when he does present something to you, like the last meeting, one of the members, the council members said, you know, they don't know why we need a chase vehicle. You know, we don't run that department. Maybe we need to ask him why we need this kind of stuff for the department, to make it run sufficient and take care of our community. But I think if they give him a fair chance and, you know, I think he'll bring it back himself.
One favor that was why we needed another vehicle, because they had already bought the 2 new trucks. So
Well,
that's switching, we've gotta,
That's a play on
But
words,
that's
and
what,
so.
but that's where
That's a
I
difference.
should have came to the meeting and explained it, because, and again, I go back to when the trucks were ordered, because I don't understand the truck thing. I mean, outside of, you know, I'm not even gonna go.
Even the wraps, I think they ended up being like $20,000.
But where we're going with where we're going with the vehicle, if you wanna know what that deal is, and this guy right here needs 2 new trucks. He tried to go to John Jones and get 2 new trucks last year. John Jones doesn't have any trucks, nobody's got any trucks, so he couldn't buy any trucks. So my thought at the time was, EMS doesn't need 2 trucks to run as a chase vehicle. I mean, it's almost impractical. I mean, so what I did was, I called John Conquer and said, do you have 2 Durangos? And he said, yes, I do. Gave me a price. Kevin had already talked to him about a deal with trading 2 vehicles in for the 2 trucks that he was hoping that they had. They didn't have them. So John said, I'll take those 2 trades on 2 Durangos And my thought was, okay, we're gonna take the 2 Durangos, give them to EMS where they should be as chase vehicles, and take the 2 trucks that they have down there, which are $60,000 or $70,000 trucks, and take them to the highway department for Kevin. So Kevin gets 2 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive vehicles that he needs at the highway department, and EMS gets their 2 Durangos that they should have in the first place, instead of 2 trucks that they paid twice as much as they could have paid for a Durango. And we did all that for $29,000 for 2 new vehicles. He gets what he wants, and then he can get in a rotation of trading his vehicles or doing whatever he has to do down there. But that was the whole deal. They weren't getting more vehicles on top of their trucks. The trucks were gonna be transferred from their department to his department, so.
Yeah, we
But
knew
is
that no
there
one was
30,000 in Kevin's account?
Oh, I've already went down that track with Teresa, and that's why Teresa came back and said, the commissioners have money in their timber fund and in another fund. What are you shaking your head now?
Because,
Not enough, it's gone.
yeah.
No,
it's
there's
not.
30.
No, it's not.
There's over 30.
There,
It was
there's
51,000, we
12.
took 10 out, and there ought to be $41,000 in the timber account. I mean, Teresa just sent it to me 2 days ago, so. And then there's money in we have another account that we have money in. She said that.
Your venture.
There were two, venture transportation. She said there's 2 accounts you can pull it out of the commissioner's accounts. But again, I reached over to John Jones, or actually, John Concord yesterday, and said, what if we just get one? And, he goes, well, it's $14,000 if you want to just get one, with one of the trade-ins. And I asked him which trade-in he would rather have, and he said the Colorado, so which is a truck that I don't know why we bought, again, I don't know why we bought it in the first place, because, nobody can get in it. And, I'll talk about just, it's a good grocery getter, there you go. But anyway, that's the deal, so we can go to one and buy one chase vehicle, and maybe, but we'd have to then, at the time, convince EMS to give up both trucks to the highway department for one. And I know there is another Durango out there, but, and I will say this, because I'm probably the biggest pet peeve, is that the county has too many vehicles.
And you approved every one of them.
So why does, so why,
You're wrong.
Well, how did?
Oh, that's next on our list. Hold on, let's
I'm not
finish.
jumping down that rabbit
let's-
hole right now.
Let's finish.
And I'll explain that in a second, Raymond.
Okay.
13,000 for
but I just
one.
have a question, why do they need 2 chase vehicles right now? I mean, ultimately, and that's probably all the
Well,
best case scenario. Can they get away right now with 1 chase vehicle?
I think they can, and there's why I say it, because there isn't an older Durango there now that they could use as a chase, but it's used as
And
a
I don't-
third chase vehicle, I
I mean,
guess. I can't explain it as much as these
Well,
guys.
because it's a great deal, and it is, but we're just not in the position
I
right
know
now.
that, I know that, but that's
So-
where I was trying to get these guys what
Yeah.
they need.
They-
because-
yes,
because
I
he's
agree.
working, with his hands tied, but it was a deal that
It's like Fred
kind of worked
Flintstone.
for everybody, but, but like I said, can we do one? And, him trade one of these vehicles and Ford? So I don't know, that's something you can talk about.
Yeah, I agree with what Mike's saying. I'd like to put a little bit different spin on it. We have an ambulance that we're wanting to get rid of because we have we don't need it, it's too big. And I think maybe we could possibly sell that ambulance and use that money to purchase instead of taking it out of the fund that we've already.
And the reason, Mike, I was shaking my head about the timber fund, it's not that you don't have the money there, we're so limited right now, and those are kind of our only go-to funds.
Emergency.
Well,
And-
you guys can't touch our fund.
No, but if you guys need something else.
But you see what I'm saying, I mean, those are our,
Or
it's kind of like
business
it's kind of like a rainy day fund, and
I get
and if we deplete that, it's
Well,
not,
I mean,
we don't have any timber right now to replace that.
oh, that's never gonna, when that
But
goes away, it goes
but you see,
away.
that's why I was shaking my
But
head, like,
we're robbing Peter to pay Paul with it, because
Right.
we're stealing from that account, I won't say stealing, we're taking from that account
Right.
to cover the trash
Right, and so
every year.
that's why I was
So
shaking
you
my
got
head
some
saying,
thank us
no,
for giving you that 10,000.
Could we borrow money from the?
Well, we need to talk about that too. That's on our list
Yeah.
here,
We don't borrow.
the trash.
okay, so, oh,
All
sorry.
right, so let's go back to,
Oh,
all right, so we talked about the 30,000 for the vehicles.
I just had a couple of comments. I've been sitting here for 30 minutes, which is waiting to say.
Okay.
That is back to EMS, and I'm probably now, since you guys came in, I may be stealing your thunder, I don't know. But we talked, the number of runs was mentioned a while ago, and in 2020, the total runs was 4,204. At the end of this last year, they were 5,059. Now, the revenue from those increased runs, or the runs from 2021, won't really be hitting our coffers until the first two or three months of this year. The last 2 or 3 months of last year, the revenue won't get till this year. So, the run volume was down. I don't know why, COVID or whatever. It's now back up to 5,059 runs, which is good. I also mentioned, has anybody seen any increase in cost in fuel?
Yep.
And
No,
I
yeah.
suspect fuel is our biggest expense after labor, after salaries. I think fuel is probably our next biggest.
Are we not still locked into a number?
I think well, I don't know about this year. I know last year, Kyle told us that because that was only for X amount of gallons, guaranteed for X amount of gallons, but after you ran out of your allotment of gallons, then it.
We're only allotted
would
for a
fluctuate.
couple hundred gallons a month at a
Yeah.
fixed rate, and then after that, it's at whatever their market is.
We've also had an increase in supplies, medical
Oh, yeah.
supplies. You use Narcan, Mike? You
Yeah,
buy
I got
it
a
out-
box of it in my car. You want some?
What, do you buy it out there? Or
Huh?
where do you get it?
Where do we get it? From the health department. We get ours from
You
the health
had an
department.
increase in price over 2 years ago?
I don't pay for it, it comes from a grant, but, again, I think Nick can probably explain why they have to have the IN.
Well, my point is,
It's all gone up.
It's, everything's gone up.
I get that. I get that.
If we
And
give
that was,
ourselves a little time, take care of our problem now, we'll be okay.
well,
I think,
and we know that there's an increase, but it would be fine and it would take care of itself, but we've got all these other things that can't be pushed down the road. And so we've got, so that, it's the perfect storm that we're trying to correct. And
we take care
and
of the
so
situation
we're
now,
trying to make the best out
and
of
we'll be
everything.
okay.
I got a question to Nick, and I'm gonna ask you if you can get a number. I don't know if you can or you can. I don't even know how you would get this. The question came up that a third truck run full-time for the year costs $281,000. My question to you is, and what the question I had to the council was, if you didn't have a third truck and you had to call people that were on call in to run a third truck and a fourth truck, what would that expense be versus the 281 full-time? And I know you
You're
had.
paying your people more on the hour first off.
Yeah, just,
Well, I get that, but I mean, what I'm saying is it's costing us $281,000 for a third truck.
Yeah, that's what
What's the
that,
difference
that
if
other
we
one
didn't
was
have a
for.
third truck and we were calling people in, to run that third truck, part-timers or whatever? What's that expense? Cause there's an expense to not have the third truck, as there is an expense to have the third truck. You understand what I'm saying?
That we
So,
hired
you know,
for the
cause
third truck.
that number of calling people in could be 120, 140, I mean, it might be $80,000, I don't know.
It's
Can I
already
ask
in the
a question
budget.
before he does it? Are you talking about if we take that truck off, you're laying off some employees?
Yeah, you would.
Okay.
They're
Then
part of
you
it?
have to
Yeah,
factor
they're
in
part of
the
the total.
benefits that would,
That's what I was wondering.
the full-time person's already got.
But you're correct, Donnie, but I'm doing the opposite, because before we brought the
That's
third
just the
truck
truck.
on, they were calling people in to work overtime.
That's what they budgeted.
And part-time
for the
people
third
that
truck.
work.
Yeah.
And
I guess
there's an
They have to have a
expense
full-time
there.
paramedic
I can
all the
speak
time,
from
so they
experience
got
from
to-
Yeah.
the 8 years that I was here prior,
Time and a half.
that the people that were coming in to staff that third and fourth truck
No,
were
that's completely
primarily
different.
full-time people.
This two
That was
hundred,
my question.
So you're not
There's
paying,
200
and I think even Pat can attest
just
to
for the
that,
third
you're
truck.
not paying
and then we
a
take
base
out two
rate to
hundred
anybody, you're
eighty-one for their
paying
benefits and all
an
that.
inflated
That's
overtime
what I
rate
was-
to
I
the
didn't know
majority
if
of
it
the
was
people
a
that come in.
No, it's not.
And that's what I'm saying,
It couldn't be.
it looks
Because
bad
they
that you're saying $281,000 for a third truck, but when you go in and you factor in overtime for people that you're gonna call in to run that truck, because you're not just gonna say, we don't have a third truck, and sorry, your emergency is gonna go somewhere else. I mean, you're going to call a third person in, so that person is automatic, when they step the door, they're at a time and a half, you know, off the first minute they're there. So, that's where I was getting at. If he can come up with some number that shows it's not 281, it's somewhere in the middle, because you're gonna pay for that service no matter what. You're gonna pay it in overtime, you're gonna pay it on-call people, you're gonna pay it some way, you're gonna pay for that third truck. Is it beneficial to have a third truck that is full-time, or have a third truck that you're gonna use part-time people or overtime every time they come to work?
That's why we need to have a meeting with
And
you
that's
guys
where-
and with EMS and go through all their budget, their numbers, and make
So
sure
we-
that,
So we understand.
I mean, and the thing is, I think one thing that's overlooked, and then I'll shut up, is that we're actually, if we look at the metrics of what IDHS and GEMS and all these places slate, like how they do population, run volume, all that stuff, how many trucks you need per, we're actually slated for 3.8 trucks with our run volume, with our population, with the hospital, with the interfacility transfers. We're actually slated for more trucks than we have. So, I mean, I'm not saying, I wasn't here for part of the conversation, but I think if we're even entertaining the idea of getting rid of the third truck, that is
I think
an awful entertainment.
I think they're contemplating, if we're gonna accept the money that it takes to fund the third truck. I think is where I'm thinking people are saying, because
Like
it's
on a
like
full-time
Tammy said,
basis, or
you're
just
either
going
gonna
Yeah.
do it-
part-time, that's what
Yeah.
what is it, what is it?
I'm coming in back in here.
So what is it,
we just need to know from you what it's costing you to run it. How many runs that third truck is, I mean, I know you can't, I know you can't, like, you know, cause other days are gonna be worse than others and
The other
other.
day we ran 4 trucks. Like, we called other people to be on whatever schedule,
Yep.
just because of the run volume.
So if we see the number of runs equaled out to the expenses back to the other truck and then calling part-time people in, or, I don't know, we've just gotta figure
I
out
think
some way to.
what Tammy brought up was that, you know, bringing the third truck on, you said it was 50% of the cost, and is
Personal
that-
services went up 50% because you're running 2 trucks and you brought another truck on, which was another half of what you've been running, so there's your 50%. But the revenue isn't going up by 50%, and I get why it might not, because it was talking about
Yeah,
what
that's
you're.
not a personnel issue, that's a billing issue.
That's okay.
And that's
So
one
then
thing
there's
that I
another
brought up
thing.
since day one.
So with all these variables in here, is it the revenue stream? Is it how much cash flow that you have at the timing that it happens? You know, when your expenses in the time period might not match your cash flow, which makes you look like you're running short.
and so
Does that make
that's
it
why we're trying to
sense?
figure out,
It's kind of like our,
is part-time, just pulling in part-time people right now gonna benefit you guys money-wise? I'm not talking about
If you
that.
look at money wise, possibly, but if you look at efficacy, efficiency, and structurally
Right.
wise, then no, because, I mean,
But that's why
if
we
we
need
get to
to
the point
have
we're
it.
running 4 trucks, I would say that running 3 trucks is an obvious. And the thing is, right now, with talking about expense wise, we're getting allocated on a lot of items, meaning we can only order X amount, if any. So, just because there's nationwide shortages of so many supplies right now. So like right now, if we can get our hands on flushes and certain things, I may not need them this minute, but I'm buying them because
Oh,
from
yeah.
my supplier, I can only get 76 a month. That's what I'm allocated for. And I use over 200 a month. And I mean, it's stuff like that, so.
I understand that.
There's a lot going on with all of that, but,
and it was more of like
Anyway,
acceptance of the, if this is how it's gonna be, and we need this for the safety of our citizens, then it's gonna have to be a different take on, that we're just gonna have to assume the financial responsibility that goes along with that. So, and you said you were slated for 3.8 trucks, so
Yeah,
again,
and I-
we're at this point, okay, what do we look at? Is there any places that we can improve? Is there something that's gonna fall off in a couple of years, like a lease payment, that's gonna help us get through
And I
even
think we
leaner
need to
times?
give my
I
billing
mean,
methodology
yeah.
some time.
Those are just things that I said, you know, you're kind of at that little fork in the road
Like I
where,
said, to
you know.
him, it will all work out, but it's the perfect storm right now with
Yeah,
everything
it's just
that
kinda
you came in with and everything that we're trying to take care of, and then the budget.
And I know I assumed a
restrictions
lot,
are
and I'm
just-
not trying to go back to anybody prior to me, because we can't change that now, we can only change what I'm doing.
Correct.
So,
But you're also dealing with
the
aftermath of
repercussions,
everything.
and I get that, but I think like my billing methodology and what I'm trying to do here, which I've proven is work, I think we need to give the actual time that it takes for it to show its efficiency, because, you know, like Raymond said, the November and December of last year, as far as income wise, we're just now starting to see. And
Unfortunately, the state board of accounts doesn't take that into
Yeah.
account when
like
they
it.
bring down the budget, so, you know,
I
and
know,
so
it's
that's, as a council, that's where what we're stuck with.
like
is-
our last week's deposit, 1 week, was $43,000,
Right,
and that's huge.
right, but from a council point of view, that's what we have to look at.
And I understand.
And the state doesn't take all of that into
There's
consideration.
just a lot of moving parts when it
Yeah.
comes to that.
And that'll be good for 23.
Yep.
That's gonna be great
Yeah.
for 23, because that's gonna make
We
us
just
a
need
little
to get
fatter,
those.
we hope, at the end of the year, so.
Go back to the other, is there a report or?
I can
something
look
that
at
you
runs per hour and see
That you can say,
what hours we wouldn't need a third truck versus we did, but, when Raymond and I met a couple of weeks ago, I ran a report for that. There wasn't 1 hour slated that we didn't have, except, no, there was 2, I take that back. Out of the entire week, there was 2 hour time periods that we had less than 3 minutes.
that's not what I'm asking.
I mean-
I'm asking if full-time, third truck, all in,
But that's my point, is if there's 3 runs within an hour, typically we have to have that third truck, so they would be called in for that time.
but that's where I'm getting at, is if you had to call somebody in because you didn't have a third truck, cost, what the cost of that variable is compared to the 281, because the actual cost to the county is somewhere in between that. 281 and whatever that number that you would cost for overtime for calling people in to run the third truck.
And we did budget that line a little high in case we did have 2 paramedics on that truck instead of just a paramedic and a basic EMT. Because I think your all's laws went to, you had to have a paramedic, you couldn't just send 2 EMTs anymore. There was something in 2020 that,
With us being an ALS transport provider, it's frowned upon to have a basic unit.
okay, so that's why we went a little high in case we had 2 paramedics on the truck at one time.
And
So
Well,
that
actually,
was,
the other part of that, and I'm
but
not,
still,
I'm not a
it's
medical
not.
person, I am a medical, but I do know that the hospital dictates that transfer if it's a paramedic in that truck or not. And all they have to do is say, oh, they got a heart monitor. There's a paramedic in the truck. I mean,
That's why we budgeted, so we had a paramedic and a basic
So-
EMT at least
Yeah,
on
and
there.
that's, and.
If
because
not
otherwise
2.
you're gonna
Yeah,
go
so-
long.
Because of scheduling.
My first 2 trucks are budgeted for the medic basic, and then the third truck is for an advanced basic. But there are times that, that advance takes off, a medic will pick that up, and it's easy, but it's part of the schedule, so.
But anyway, that's where I'm asking, is what's the difference between full-time third truck, and if we didn't have a third truck, what it's gonna cost us to bring in overtime, so moving right along. That was clear as mud.
Well, we need a meeting with EMS and the commissioners and us and just go through and just like I said, give you a fighting chance. If we go over the numbers, then we understand it better. We see where, your all's problems are. The commissioners can help you with yours,
And
with
you
whatever's going
understand-
on.
You understand then
And-
where the council's coming from when we're saying, we can't, or, hey, we can't do this much or whatever. So if we can get together and all get on the same page, because I think that's, as a countywide, no one's on the same page, so that
We're
would
all
be a
having
good
to
start.
dig out together this year.
Yes, that'd be a good start, if we all get
To no
together.
fault of your own.
Yeah, right.
Past experiences,
Yeah.
that you're.
There's nothing against you.
everybody needs to be on the same page going forward about what's
You
going
don't look
on.
very happy over there.
Huh?
You don't look very.
That's just,
You look-
it's not, that's just normal look.
See, and that's
That's
why
the
we have to have a
resting-
meeting, so I can
Oh.
decipher the faces.
No, and,
I just
yeah,
want to be clear, it's nothing personal to you, we just, from what has happened in the past, we
I don't know,
need to
but,
have
I
it.
mean, it's, it is what it is. I mean,
Well, what works for you then,
We
so
agree
we
to
can,
disagree, but
so we can
we'll
set
still
this up
converse.
and, I mean,
Yes.
what, so we can set this up and it doesn't get kicked down the road, like it seems.
You tell me, I'll show up.
It's not a Wednesday.
Huh?
Just not a Wednesday. I'm
We
open.
need, we need to do it in just that being the meeting, because that's gonna be a long discussion.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm
Or it could
saying.
be a long discussion.
Well, could we just have
Let me say
a
something
discussion
here.
at the E EMS?
Let me say something that I don't think that we've ever done this, but I've talked to the Indiana Association of Commissioners and their attorneys and everybody else says, oh yeah, sure, you can do that. We can have a workshop.
Mhm.
You just, you know, and you don't have to acknowledge it, you don't have to, you know.
And
say it's-
everyone can show
Everybody
up?
can be here.
Well,
Long
then
as
let's have a
nothing-
workshop,
long as
EMS
nothing's
The
workshop.
door
voted
has
on.
to be open though, and people can be able to walk in and everything else, but we can
But
have a
that's-
workshop and
that's all
work
we
through
want.
things and come to a meeting and pass it or do whatever you wanna do in a separate meeting,
Well,
but,
let's schedule an EMS workshop.
I mean, cause you can do that without calling a big meeting and people, every commissioner can be there, every councilman can be there, so.
Our mornings or afternoons, what's better for you, Nick?
I work Monday through Saturday, so. The only days that I prefer not to do it would be a Tuesday, because I teach on Tuesdays. But if I have to, I can get something covered if we need to, but that's just my input. But if it has to be a Tuesday, I'm down for a Tuesday, I'll make it work.
You wanna do
So Monday or Thursday?
Thursdays are way better than Mondays.
Thursdays?
Mondays are killers.
Thursday's good for you guys?
Payroll Monday
Well,
would be
we're
great.
talking, we're talking the rest of the month, my Thursdays are booked. I'll be in Indianapolis on the 24th.
Well, if it's a workshop, I mean, could you come in and out as we needed you to, if we had questions where it wouldn't,
And I'll look a little farther, because we've never done one of these before, so I don't know if I still have to post it.
No,
It's just
I mean,
not,
the
you don't have to
workshops you
post
don't.
it?
Mm-mm.
No.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
You don't have to do
As long as
anything.
nothing's voted on.
This is
Long-
new,
long as you're
right?
just-
This is like new.
Well, they had it at our thing
They have
over
it
at
over
Belterra
there.
a long time ago. That's why I didn't know the last joint meeting, why you had to advertise it and
There's
all
no
that when
decision.
we were
can't
just.
make a
Registered.
decision.
And no
Yeah.
financial decision.
Right,
Okay.
so,
Uh,
can you do Monday?
I can do it seven,
No,
I can
I
do it
mean, Mondays
17th.
are okay.
I can do it set on the 17th if it's early in the morning, so.
How early
Next
is early in
Thursday.
the morning?
Well, not, I mean, 6, 8, 9, 10, I mean.
What's,
The 17th, is that a Thursday?
That's a week from today.
Okay, and you'll be here till 10 o'clock, you know, on the night before.
Not if John doesn't quit talking.
I mean, we could do Monday. Mondays work better for me, not that we're going out.
Monday's the 14th, you know what that is?
Oh, no,
Valentine's
yeah,
Day.
that's not good. Not
What?
good at all. I'm totally gone that day.
Oh, all right.
Yes, nothing, no,
Let's do this, let's do the 17th at 10.
17th at 10, workshop.
And if you can have, that information. about
Have it to you
17th.
by tomorrow.
But anyway, you know what I'm asking
Yep.
for.
Thursday.
Thursday morning, next Thursday morning.
What time?
10.
Does that work for you guys?
no, it's 10.
On the 17th.
Next Thursday. All right. Great. So I guess let's move on to the next subject. We're gonna pull the EMS next Thursday and just have a day long, or not a day long, but just a strict meeting for them, one-on-one items. So I guess my message back to Nick is to make sure that, whatever information somebody wants
Yeah.
to bring.
Can I ask if there's anything you guys, besides that, would want me to bring?
A detailed profit loss report, like runs, where your revenue is coming from, like what type of runs generate how much money, that type of stuff.
We can do call detail what we bill for,
That's what I mean.
but with the way the collections are, I mean, we can still get revenue from July of last year, so that running a P&L versus what was billed and what we've collected isn't an accurate thing because of how it rotates. I can do a billables.
Yeah.
Also, same thing with your expenses, I mean, I know everybody thinks they're gonna do a program that's gonna, to save money, but in turn, it ends up costing us money. And I know you cancel a bunch of the stuff that were costing us, that we could do the same thing for free, so.
And any contracts that we're still paying on that we might not know about?
Yeah, I'm still finding out what's.
Well, hey, you bring in what you know.
A new budget.
Better
So
bring in what you
I can
know.
take like $10 off if that helps.
Lunch.
Moving along, so that's all we really got.
And I'll bring the thing that bring the commissioners meeting as well, so you can see where, as of this year, our runs and profit are for this year.
All right.
Charting doing better?
Yeah, so if you want to touch on that, when I first came, we had it was 100 something total, but from the last 3 months was like 48. Last month we had 3.
Awesome, thank you.
And out of those 3, all of them were corrected, so they'll be able to be billed. I think this year we've only had 2 runs that we couldn't bill for, and those were VA issues. And then we had 2 more that we couldn't bill for, that was our fault. So, I mean, we're working on it, we're getting better, we're not getting perfect, but it's been, unfortunately, we've, had a couple people take some involuntary days off because of lack of charting, but that seems to be the motivator to do
Well,
your charting.
that needs to be done, yes. If they can't do it right,
We're
then
getting
something
there.
needs to
It's just
happen.
gonna take a minute. But, the issues with charting has improved.
Great.
Is it perfect? No, but we're getting there.
Yeah, but those
Well,
last
we're able to
reports
do it.
were horrible. I mean, there should not be that many. I worked medical, there's no way. That should have been caught a long time
The
ago.
only issue, I will say this, I mean, it is what it is. So they transitioned in March to that ESO, somewhere around March, and then they stopped right before I came. That contract with ESO ended January 7th of this year. We fixed what we could in there, but there was probably 30 runs that we just had to write off, just because, A, I didn't have access to it, and I worked with ambulance billing to correct what we could, but there was probably 70, give or take 70 grand that we just had to write off. Because once you don't have access to the system anymore, unless we're gonna pay the 30 grand to continue the contract for the software, we don't have access to that system anymore.
Wow. I'm in the wrong business.
Put EMS and fire in it, and you'll make a lot of money as the supplier.
All right, keep up the good work.
What is it?
Personnel thing came to me the other day. Call me now. Just call me after a while.
Okay.
I
Cryptic.
don't want that brought up in here,
Yeah, neither.
so, all right.
All right, Veteran Service Office.
Move on to veterans. John, I'm gonna let you talk about this. You're pretty versed in this.
The Veteran Service Officer, we've all worked through our things, Veterans Office. The one thing I have come up with is we have 2 people working. One works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the other one Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And when we brought Denise on, we put Tom in a field office type thing. And I've talked to Tom about this, and what we haven't had is I get a lot of people coming in Thursdays and Fridays, and there's nobody here, and it upsets them. And if they do get with Tom, because he's out in the field, he will refer it back to Denise. So I don't want to get into a point where we should be talking executive session instead of this. But it seems logical to me that it might be a good idea to bring him back to working inside Thursdays and Fridays.
Well, they were supposed to be here a number of hours and be out, so they were
We
supposed to have the
authorized
numbers
Tom as
post
field
on the
officer
door.
Back when Denise came on, which means he could go out and work with veterans.
That's what we did at budget.
So he's getting paid to go out and work in the field. And in the process, we have people come in on Thursday and Friday isn't aware of all this, and they want help and can't get it. So, all of us want to work with our veterans, I know we do. Just my opinion, it's probably more of our decision
Her
than
hours were
yours. I
supposed
would
to be
like to see
divided
them
where she was
brought
in the
back
office.
and work in the office.
All week.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think-
totally up to you guys.
Well, I agree with that. There's been some talk about putting Denise on full-time, which I like Denise, does a good job.
Add
But we-
8 more hours.
That's what I'm trying to, that's where we get it in more hours, so I think we need to bring Tom back to see how that works before we start talking about putting somebody on full-time.
Yes, because when we went through it, adding the benefits, and she doesn't need them, but if somebody else was to need them, then that was gonna up our bill and,
Yeah,
but they were supposed to have hours. Whenever Denise came down at budget time, they were supposed to have hours on the door where they were here. Someone was here. If they went out in the field, because he was gonna be like 4 hours a day or something. They were supposed to be here and have their hours posted on the door and have all that covered. So I don't understand.
it's posted on the door, but we, I'm gonna say we, and I think that's related to you guys, we authorized Tom to be a field officer.
So no office time then, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
That's not working out, in my opinion. First of all, as a field officer, we really don't have any record of what work is being done. So bring him back in the office, and then we have somebody at the very
Thank you,
minimum
guys.
to meet with our
Thank you.
veterans come in. So I think, but it's somewhere along the line, it'll become an
Thank
issue
you, Pat.
if we decide to make her full-time. So that's all that is. That's all this is to me, unless something else brought up.
Well, actually, I think it was that, as far as bringing him back off of being, I guess, out in the field, talking to people at either the VAs or the
Yeah.
American Legions or whatever, is bring him in the office so he is there. But there was another stipulation or another issue that we were having with Denise and Tom, is that most of that job now is on a computer. And as far as Tom being able to do that type of work, I don't know if that's happening, and we're
We'll
having,
just see how that works out.
yeah, we're gonna have to see how that pans out, because if he can assist her in entering stuff in the computer and doing filings and everything in the computer, then we're gonna have to look at a different avenue here, so. And there's actually I guess, who's that guy that's over top of them, but there's somebody over top of them that's
To Till, what's his
Brian or
name?
Brian something?
Oh, it used to be Joe DeVito.
Joe DeVito.
But there's a
not
different
Till.
gentleman now.
But he's not there now, there's somebody.
But anyway,
else.
They're
they're
regional
looking at that.
And he's the one who actually came down and advised us to work on the field office. And it's just my opinion, it's not working out.
Well, I mean, if he was gonna be a field officer, I could see like having scheduled times where he would go to sign somebody up, or go get their information, go get their paperwork, do something like that, but
It doesn't
like,
seem
like I
that's
said,
working.
whenever we figured the hours and how we were gonna do it, they were supposed to split it up where somebody was always in the office every day, at least a couple hours.
That's not-
it's not working that way, because I guarantee I've had 15 phone calls in the last
And we get them all
5
worked
months
out.
of people
but-
going, I can't get anybody to answer.
Well, I called in and left a message, and I didn't hear back from anybody, so that,
So we're trying to find an avenue that's gonna work here,
And I think we will.
and it'll work out. I mean, just like everything else, it's gonna work out one way or the other. But what's the best solution? And that's, I guess.
I think we're working that way.
And I will say this, I think what happens and how the time is split up, but I know you guys looked at, her, bringing her on full time and what that cost would be, and do we have the funds to pay for that, versus, not bringing her on full time and having it set up like it is, but, I'm sure she came to your meeting and told you that, was it $3 million that she's brought in to Scott County VA or veterans and I mean, that's huge. I mean,
She's got a.
and that's benefits, that's just not cash, that's benefit services and everything else, but it's somewhere in the $3 million range that they have brought, and I won't say East Hartwell, that their department has brought to Scott County veterans, and I mean, to me, that's something I wouldn't even thought about. so. go ahead.
So is he gonna be in the office only, or he's going to be both?
No, my thought would be back in the office full-time.
Full-time, so-
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
So then who would be the field officer?
There wouldn't, I mean, that was just
Then
an
we wouldn't
option.
have one.
That was an option that they.
Well, if somebody needed them to go to their house to get paperwork or something, he'd just schedule that, put it on the door.
I think both of them can do that. I mean,
Okay, I didn't know if that was a major component of
Somebody
that.
needs
We're just, we're,
It was recommended to us back when
Put sign on
the
the
deal
door.
was
So it'd
there.
be a
but
field
I-
officer by appointment,
I will
basically, or as
return.
needed, or,
If
About-
that was the way it would work.
Right.
I think we're better off having somebody in the office full-time, my opinion.
Because we just used to have them 2 to 3 days a week, and there was a need to have somebody physically present 5 days a week when the
this'll-
courthouse was
this'll
open.
staff the
So
office
this
5
was
days.
kind of the option of trying to, because you guys are literally funded
Well, 3
6
days
days a
now.
week.
Well, they didn't have room for both of them to be in the office,
No,
so that's
and
why
then
we
they
split,
split
we
their-
split their days,
When this
and
happens,
somebody was
it's
always
fine.
supposed to be in the
When we
office.
move them in the office, there'll be someone here 5 days.
And you know, I get, and I know you guys do too, I get calls from them, if they're not happy, they don't have to come to Scott County or they're not. They'll go, I have people tell me that, I go to the next county, I go somewhere else. But I've also had people say, well, there's some improvements made over here, and we're coming back to Scott County. Well, we want them all to come here and feel comfortable, they can get the benefits and whatever they need. And I think this is the best option. If this doesn't work, we'll take another option again.
Yeah. Well,
And I
Well,
think we
we
need
just,
to,
we informed Denise that it was just a bad year right now, and then we would look at it again at budget time for next year, when it's gonna be more feasible.
It wasn't a,
well, I mean, I can,
no for you.
I could.
So we didn't, it wasn't like a hard no, it was just, at this moment,
Well, I mean, I think, and I'm not taking anything away from older veterans, but you also got it, because when I guess all through my life, I always think of veterans as the older people. But, and I don't think that's a bad sense, but you think about World War I,
Yeah.
World War II, Korea.
The greatest
Vietnam-
generation.
Vietnam, I mean, you think of those wars that we had, but we have veterans that have served since Vietnam in multiple conflicts and wars, and you don't think of those people because they're your age or they're young. I mean, they're my kids. I mean, and those people are asking for benefits now. So there is a boatload of people that are, and actually not until just recent did my son even go to the VA and even ask any questions. But there's those people out there that are have access to benefits that have not asked for that.
don't even know about it.
And also didn't know about, but there's a bunch of them. I mean, and I'm not
Raymond,
saying,
good phone, didn't I?
and I'm not talking about the old, I'm not talking about the old
And I
generation.
use it every day.
That's the mindset you get into, is that you go, oh, those vets, but you think about the ones that still serve today and continue to serve.
And I didn't know.
Desert Storm.
I know. I didn't until Denise told me.
Well, you have veterans that are 19, 20 years old now, and
I'm all for
that
making,
blows my mind.
at least full
I
time,
mean,
but there's something that we do have to look at.
I'd put somebody in the office all the time.
Who fills in for, we're gonna have to pay somebody to do that.
I'd put somebody in the office all the time. If they had to be out for something, they put a sign on the door, out, I will return about a certain time, and that's the way I'd operate.
I think that's the way it needs to be, and I think that's the way we'll discuss it, but I think that's what's gonna happen.
Or
If they can get through this year like that, and then we can readjust at budget.
They might, for field office, you know, or for field work, you might just tell them, hey, if you're gonna schedule a field time, it's gonna be between this time and this time, that way on the door,
Yeah.
that they will know that no one will be in here every day, and if they're in there, they're in there, but that way they're just not.
Well, you just
By
pick up-
chance.
You pick, hey, Monday after lunch, I'm
That's what
gonna
I'm
be out of the office.
That's what I'm saying,
Well,
but then that's posted and everybody knows that that's field day.
I think some of the problem is, you know, some of the veterans, it's hard for them to get here.
Oh, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
aggravating and everything when they get here and they're supposed to be here and it's closed.
That's what I'm saying.
Tempers flare, and I can
If
understand.
someone's gonna be here 5 days a week,
Yeah.
and there's still a need for field office, field
But
work.
I go back to this policy that we made,
Yeah,
so they can have a right to be mad at us too, I think.
Well,
So our job is to correct this.
What was the recommendation? to
Yes,
us
it was, and we,
from their
Oh, I like
superiors,
it.
so.
so I mean,
If
it's
that
not
means
just,
anything.
I don't wanna go blaming somebody.
No,
We
it's-
made a decision.
It was a recommendation to
We need to
us,
correct
and we made the decision, and we need to reverse
Okay.
it.
And your older people, they have to schedule a ride to
You
get
call
here.
Right.
Not us.
And then they come up and nobody's here. Well, and almost everything they do is done by appointment.
Yeah.
But people come in on Thursday and Friday, they're not aware of that. And they come in, just want to go up and see somebody, and there's nobody there. Or go up to their office. So we can correct this, and I think we're doing that.
Yeah, good deal.
Okay,
Good job.
moving along.
That's what I'd do with it.
All right, countywide trash system. So currently, we have 2 contracts in our budget paying Todd to collect and take trash to our dump, and the other is to take recycle to Jefferson Proving Ground. Are you guys aware of 2 contracts?
Yes, I am, 25,000, the other one is 20,000.
Okay.
I can tell you, I've been out to see Todd several times about this, I've been working on this, voiced my concerns. I think we're okay now. Tammy should have an insurance policy on file. I think she does. And, I've worked with Aaron Bell on this quite a bit, through Todd both, and I think a recyclable has all been taken over. Should be every Thursday now. Now, he said he had been doing recycling before, but not all over there. I can't really swear about that.
Well, they'll all be put in the compactor whenever.
I know, that's why I was discussing with him. I think we're on the right track now, anyway. Now, we can always go other routes, and I'll check back with Aaron, make sure. But, 2 of them, I had been working on together to get all the recyclables over where it belongs in Madison.
So is he making anything off of those when he takes them over there?
I don't know.
I mean, we should,
Well,
that would be a,
Well, we pay, I think we actually pay, don't we?
They're taxed, the
what I
Sear
mean,
gets a
though.
tax from the county, solid waste tax. I don't think it's any profit to the people who haul in. If anybody makes anything, it's Seared, because they take the product, and that's my guess.
I mean, there should be a
So
smarter
So the
thing where we're
contract-
making money.
The contract is 2 contracts. The contract for the recycle is how much?
20, is that what you said?
So
Well, I
we're,
think they can both be brought up anytime they want to.
well, my whole thing
20
here is
for the
if we're-
recycles is the contract?
I think it's 25 for the
25.
recyclables, and 20 for the trash,
So-
because she'll have it there.
So we're paying $25,000 a year for someone to take recycles to Jefferson County. I guess I would ask, how often are you doing that?
It's 30 or 40,000 total for
That
him
was- So
to
my-
take our
my
trash to our
question-
That
dump,
was a question
for
I
us to
wanted.
pay to have it removed.
So
I received an anonymous letter the first week I was a commissioner and said, this isn't happening.
So,
I worked
No,
on this a
I
year
asked
ago,
the little
and I
girl
thought
that helps
somebody
him,
had figured
and-
it out, but
So I don't even take my
I think
recycle
we
over there,
are.
I just take it out to the thing, because it wasn't being
Did you ever
recycled.
read the contract on that?
but even
No,
when, but
we-
even if we're on the right track with he's
To haul
actually doing
somewhere, or
this,
however that's rolled up, that is.
And it's-
Our
it
revenue-
goes seared.
the money we're bringing in keeps going down and down and down, and we
Right.
keep paying out the same amount. And so,
I think it.
I mean,
If we're gonna
that's
pay him,
why
why don't we
we're
pay him to
negative,
take it to
right?
Baldwin's, and then
Okay.
James
The
could,
history of this was Sasco.
Right.
Now it's switched to Star. But anyway, Sasco, and we had Austin, Scottsburg, and the county participating. So if you had all that revenue,
We
and
understand.
the contract was a fixed amount, but yet Austin went out,
Right.
Scottsburg went
that's what I'm
out,
saying, our
then the
revenue,
revenue's gone,
our
except for the
revenue keeps going
county.
down,
Right.
and we're still paying out
And then
the
we
same
have
amount.
people contracting with Rumpke and Bestway to do their private trash. So you can imagine how over time the revenue stream has depleted, but the contract amount has remained steady since 2008.
So
So that's where
this
we're
may be
at.
unpopular, but could the county get out of the trash business?
I'm trying to do that.
Sure we can.
where are you guys at with the
Actually,
merging with the city stuff?
I had people just, it's almost like certain other items, but I mean, when you talk about closing the landfill, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well, never mind, but we had a deal, it was not a in concrete type of deal, but the city of Scottsburg would have done the same thing that the landfill does. I'm not talking about Todd, I'm talking about the landfill. The landfill would have closed, at that time, and nothing against Tim, Tim was the most expensive employee we probably had because of his years of service. But we were paying, you know, a high dollar for wages out there and benefits, but anyway, the city was gonna do it for, I think they went to the council, came back and told me that they could do it for, $25,000 to $30,000 a year. In that, but the first year, we were going to buy them an extra compactor at $39,000. So $39,000 to get out of the business, $25,000 to $30,000, depending on how much they were gonna bring in. And then Eric and I actually had a couple meetings with the mayor. And then we got thinking, they're gonna have revenue off of getting our business. So we figured that revenue in and then said, well, maybe you need to renegotiate what we're gonna pay you yearly, because you're gonna gain revenue from us. Yes, you got expenses too, but you're still gonna get a revenue stream. And then we were trying to work a deal where we still had those 3 outside sites, and Todd was still going to haul to them for free. I mean, we were trying to work a deal where he would dump our county trash that we have at these outside locations for free. So we were trying to work it out. Whether it happened or not, it just got to the point where once it came aired out in public, people just ripped down people's throats about, you know, I take my stuff out there, well, you can take it in here too. The city was going to even have Saturday hours, just like we have out there on the, you know, on Saturdays. My whole thing was, I thought it was a win-win for the fact that the county landfill is on one end of the county. People that live on the north end of Austin have to drive all the way to the south end of the county to go take stuff to the dump if they want to take it. They could come here to the hub. Well, you'd be parking out on the street, over on 3rd Street, being that backed up over there, being this, being that.
There's never that many people out
I
there.
know, but you just wouldn't believe all the stuff I heard, but it wasn't costing us anything at the time, so we stayed with, you know, keeping the landfill open. My option always, and the mayor is always open right now to doing it at any time. Jason Applegate goes, we can flip the switch and make it happen tomorrow. I mean,
Well, because we're not, this year's it's $10,000, who knows what it's gonna be next year, so.
actually, I think
It's
from what
more
I
than
looked, it
10,000.
Well,
actually,
I'm just, yeah.
it dropped.
It dropped.
What we actually were better this year than we were last year.
Yes.
And maybe because of COVID, I don't know, that people weren't doing something, but we actually, I think it was $2,000 or $3,000 less we had to divvy into the thing from last year. My concern, if I had any concern about the way it's ran right now, is that the recyclables. Are we getting our money for our buck for the recyclables? And if we're not, and I'm gonna be honest here, because I've asked other people, what are you doing with recyclables? Well, the recyclables, just like you said, they're not going to recycle. They're throwing them in the landfill just with the rest of the stuff.
No, so we could get rid of that second contract and just pay him.
If the recycle thing is not there, then I would have to question, that's what I said, do we know how many times the recycles are being sent?
No, because all he puts is taken to Jefferson Proving Ground. But like I said, it's been 2 or 3 years since I've been taking my stuff to Finley, and they've been throwing it in the compactor the whole time. So we've been paying him a double contract, and I would guarantee that he couldn't show, like, if it needs to be stamped at Jefferson Proving Ground, or it needs to be something from Jefferson Proving Ground showing that he made it,
I just
instead
don't
of,
think-
remember,
yeah.
his things are very vague, and it just
I'm just saying the
says
service that
Todd.
he does, and I'm nothing against Todd, but the service that he does for our 3 locations, except for recycle, he's stepped
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
If we had problems where people were dropping bags the day before, 2 days before, or all week long out there, and I think we finally got that released a little bit. The recycle part of it, you know, I didn't know, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know if there was a separate contract for recycles versus the other, and I would have to say, we need to look at that.
But I can't imagine that him stepping up is going to make up that deficit,
No, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about stepping up as far as
doing his job.
when the bags were dumped out of the
Okay.
outside lots. It's not, the recycle thing's up in the air.
I'm just talking money wise, I just think,
Yeah, that was my thing at budget time,
I
why
think
we
it's
had 2
just-
contracts when everything was going in the compactor. So if we
I think
can,
the county should just get out of the,
Well, I'm gonna be honest here, I go to these commissioner meetings that I have once a month, and I throw up, because every meeting they go, hey, bring a hot topic, so I'll say, hey, what are you guys doing about trash? And they start laughing. They go, Rumpke or VIP or somebody.
I just
You know,
don't think the
we don't
county,
do
we
that.
can't continue to eat this deficit every year, and it's not gonna get any better. So I think that it just needs to be entertained that the county gets out of the trash business and be done with it.
Well, to me,
Then you're gonna have a heck of a mess on our side streets
Yeah,
and my
that's-
yard and the creek
that was the
beside the
reason they did in
house.
the beginning, but I think that
Thomastown again.
You know, my experience is that people complain about it until they don't have it, and then they'll really complain about it.
Well,
I just wanna get the contract
These
straight. I
three
mean, I
sites we
don't
have,
mind the smaller
they're
amount, but if we're gonna
popular.
pay somebody 40,000 to do a job,
see,
and
that's where I thought we would be beneficial if we use Todd to still do the satellite drops and go to the city. We don't have the expense of an employee, we don't have the expense of benefits, we don't have, and Eric and I crunched a bunch of numbers. I mean, and it looked good to the county, you know, bottom line, that if we paid, even if we paid the city $25,000-$30,000 a year, it's cheaper to do that than to be in the business.
So the trash would still get picked up.
The trash, people that go to the landfill could go to drop
Just
their
drop it
trash
here.
bag over
So
here.
there's still a place to go.
They could bring their stuff they bring in on a trailer right here in town. What we wanted to keep was Todd doing the 3 satellite spots where people that live out in the country drop their spot there once a week, he'd pick it up, he'd take it right in here. Jason said, we'll have him dump. He's got a key like he does for Austin right now. He said he's got a key, walk in there and dump it, you know, in the bin when we're not even here. So the point of it is that you would get away from, you know, the landfill expense, and it was here, but like I said,
It costs a lot of
the
money
pushback I got was,
to dump Ecotech, those dumpsters, when all the
well,
trash goes out there.
that's another thing I wanna
Yeah.
look at.
It-
I tried to, and this, when we got into the numbers and stuff, we're paying Ecotech more money than what Scottsburg's having all their stuff hauled out here.
well, that's,
And I tried to get somebody to give me a quote, and I don't know what the deal is, but I'm still waiting.
I
to
don't
see.
understand why they're so high either. That's
But
been
Ecotech-
ongoing.
They're a lot higher than what Thomas's are hauling it out over here.
Well, I talked to Teresa about it, and Thomas, they said that at the time when we got them, that Thomas was so busy that they didn't have a spot. But I think we need to call other people to see what their charges would be, because we're out of our contract with them, right? We're just up in,
We hold a bond, I think we pay so much a year for a bond.
Well, if we're,
Like,
I'll
But I mean,
ask,
we're
the bond
not-
went down.
yeah.
We're not
I'll
in
ask
a contract.
Lisa, I'll ask Lisa again to see if they'll give me a quote, because I know they're a lot cheaper than where we're.
Because when we broke it down 2 years ago, I was like, what? I mean,
And that's the biggest,
For trash.
besides wages out there, at the landfill, that's the biggest expense is the haul bill.
Yeah,
So-
and that haul bill would have kind of gone away because we wouldn't have it out there anymore, and we'd have combined with them, and we'd have probably negotiated with them, you know, with our deal, that we would have got a big cut on the haul bill, you know, along with the, you know.
like I said, can we do a trial period with the mayor in 6 months, see what it's gonna be, and then if it doesn't work out?
If we take the heat from the residents, because
Well, it's not really,
Well, the only bad thing.
if it's gonna cost them more tax dollars to pay for the site to be out there than to be in
Also raise the
town.
price of the bags.
Right.
Well, the only thing about a trial period is we'd have to buy a compactor, or we just have to.
That's what I mean, but if we do a trial period, and if it doesn't work, then we initially get our money back for the compactor, because they're gonna have that, and then we would just have to renegotiate our
They
stuff.
don't want an extra one.
I'm sorry, I
If we're
had to
not-
step out, but I want to say one thing. Chances are we're going to buy a compactor if we stay out there.
Right.
So we're gonna need one anyways.
eventually,
But it's not gonna be 70,000 this time, we can find one for 39?
we can buy it for 39.
Okay.
Instead of-
Actually, it was 170,000, that wasn't even them installing it.
Right.
For
So-
two, that was for two.
That got changed.
breaking it down, doing this, how will it benefit the people that live out in the country money-wise?
It's not gonna be any different.
No difference.
There's no
Still have
difference
to buy a
on
sticker.
on the satellite.
It was convenience for people.
Right, I know, I'm just
And-
money-wise. So they'd still have to buy the stickers.
They would have, well, the stickers for the city are
A
they
dollar
more?
now. They're $1 now, and we've never raised our sticker price, which used to be a bag, but now it's a sticker. And we're still at 75, and I was getting ready to say this unpopular thing, that, you know, if we raised our sticker to $1, we'd be even with the cities, we wouldn't be exceeding. And we would probably break even in this star fund. If we could raise, cause we're selling thousands, I mean, we order 12,000 stickers at a time. Okay, and we would increase that by a quarter on each sticker. So you're talking $4,000. You see,
We're in a whole
or-
10
yeah.
this year.
So you're talking, yeah, so you see what I'm saying? Or 3,000, I wasn't dividing right, 3,000.
So if we get rid of the
would come
second
out
contract and we up sticker prices,
to $1.
Well, I'm not
Then
saying
you
get
Then we
rid of
could
the
break-
contract.
we could-
I would entertain that Todd explain what his worth is for the second contract for the.
Well, we asked them
recycling.
that at budget time. We asked them to give us a little bit more of a.
if he was really
explanation.
going,
An
but we still just
explanation.
got back the little,
Well,
This is, I take it too, and I take it too.
I guess I'll call there and see if they give him a haul bill or something. that
cause he
verifies
used to
that
have
he's
his
even
box
there.
trailer that he took everywhere with him, and I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, it's out there.
And it's not much of a
Hadn't
pool,
been.
but there is a little
It's
bit of
out there,
draw
but we
on
haven't yet. It's
the
out there.
Star Trash Fund where Todd's paid out of, because they added dump site cameras. So there's monthly expenses
We haven't
for the
done that.
service. But we're paying, there's like 100 and something each month. I think it comes out of there for the, dump site cameras, cause then there's
We
one or two
did, we
going.
never did open up.
Yeah.
So,
They
so,
so we're
paying
charged
for
with it.
cameras that we don't have?
There's an invoice that gets generated.
Oh my gosh, you guys and your invoices.
Hey, I'm not the department,
No,
okay?
I'm not either, because
Yeah.
that was something that, I feel with Andrew, because Andrew and Greg Ramone put those cameras
But I
up.
thought we were in operation, I really did. I thought we had,
I don't think.
Tammy's taking her trash going, please don't let me fall.
Every time we done like it.
it's slick out here, don't let me bust.
We ordered them to.
They're not much.
Yeah, that's,
That's why we need to visit all of our contracts that we have that are open. We need to visit contracts,
I figured.
So I thought-
anything that we're
I
paying anybody monthly for.
Up and running, cause that's just,
no, because the last time I asked, because we were gonna get, they were waiting for a booking truck to go out and put cameras out.
Don't be spilling my caffeine
check with him and see if
And they
we're not
very
getting
well-
live feeds from somewhere, cause it seems like 911 was supposed to got the feed. Does that make sense? Is that right? I mean, there's so much talk, but that's kinda,
I'll
yeah.
find out. But anyway, that's where, I mean, I would entertain, because like I said, Eric and I did a lot of legwork on, this county trash thing. And that was, to me, it was a big savings of an employee. It kind of worked out good, because, Tim was retiring. And I thought, well, okay, there's a prime time to just get out of it. And when I brought it up at a meeting, oh my gosh. You know, it was worse than.
Well, I thought that's why we were leaving that position open for as long as we could.
Yeah, but anyway, and actually, I'd still entertain that, because like I said, I thought it was a win-win for us. I know the people in the county, their only concern was to leave those satellite areas out there, and, you know, and it
Well,
all.
if with this, we're leaving the satellite areas open, with what you're saying,
Do you have
then
the
there
total
should be
pulled up there
no-
for that?
there should
Do
be
you
no
have the total?
blowback, because they've
For
got the
the
We
satellites.
were doing that anyway, and
For the contract?
the people that brought their trash that lived
Well,
down
if we
there.
paid 39, and then we paid Todd like 42 something, I think is what we came up
But they
with,
could
the
take
total.
them to the city,
That's
right?
exact, but then they said like
For
I
the
said
city,
earlier, they'd be
if we
backed up out
bought a
to the
compactor,
road,
and then
in the
25,000,
street, no place for them to park.
and then we pay,
It just-
we came down to,
I'm
what,
for it.
17?
I mean, I was all for it.
17 for the
Eric and I
position out there,
had
didn't
multiple
North end of the
conversations.
county would be
It's
for it.
17 now. It's
Yeah, and then when-
36,000 I think a year.
36, so it would even out
And they'll do
if we
it.
got rid
And
of that
actually, they
position.
have, Terry,
It's
I mean, I could say that,
36,000.
but-
Terry's trying to push the recycle thing
Cause at
too
39,000 would be
there.
one
He's-
time for
he
the
says he has a
compactor, and then it
person
would be
that
25,000 a
would come in and
year.
put the, Gaylords down for recycle,
But they even said they
and that he
talked
would do
them
it
down.
for free. This company that's doing it,
They
they
were
would
going
come
to
get
or
it for
something.
free. And, so if somebody wants to play, do the recycle thing, and they bring their trash, they can do the recycle right there and be done with it. So, so anyway, it's an option, and like I said, to me, it was a cost savings to the county. But when I threw it out there, I got my head chopped off.
No,
I know.
on the contract.
It was just surprising that it for over trash, but.
On the contract, Mike, with Todd, I'd just like to see a clear-cut contract. I think the one that's out there now is not a very good contract.
Well, my question there would be, would you have to, because of Sears, would you have to have the two contracts? Is the one contract?
That's up to you guys.
No, but I'm saying, is it a regulation with Sears that,
Since they left,
that we would have to have a contract showing that we have a contract for recycles?
No, I think back in the day,
Yeah.
it was looked at as two separate functions that he was performing.
and
then you
they, and
could
they gave us
literally
a
split it up
discount
and take
because we took
bids
it
for
to
each
them,
one.
but
I mean,
now it's
you-
not.
You know, I'm not advocating anything one way or the other, but literally somebody could come in here and court you for recyclables only. And then you
Yeah.
wouldn't have, you'd have it already split. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm
yeah.
all for either renegotiating the contract, because I've never seen it.
We need to get him in here for a
They
meeting.
don't say much.
So, anyway.
Well, he needs to go to the commissioners first,
Yeah, you guys.
and then you guys,
And it would be really, no, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have, because this contract's several years old, you get a more current date. 'Cause- And then if they have to go over a certain dollar amount,
Well,
they
I
have
just
to be
like-
uploaded to Gateway, because it's all public
Well,
information.
I'd just like to see his proof that that second contract is what we're paying him for, cause
They've
Well,
got,
we're
There's
losing
no-
$10,000 a year, roughly, 10, 12, a year on the trash thing. We need to negotiate something somewhere to just break even if nothing else. I mean,
Do you have a contract?
Yes, I do, I've got copies of it
Can
right
you
here.
tell me what the one says about the recycling?
Four residential drop-off sites have been designated in the county at the following locations:
We can do it in a public hearing. so we can
Stacy's,
ask people
Finley,
to voice their
Lexington
opinion.
Minute, and Mart, and, which now they do it at the ball field, I think, don't they, at Lexington?
Yeah.
Don't they? And then Scott County Tire. So those are the four places that he picks up
Scott County.
recyclable.
Right, but what
But
does
what
it say
is-
about the hauling?
it says that he will haul it to Jefferson Proving Ground.
Yeah.
Scott County residents will be informed on how to cans aluminum, they just this, scheduled time periods, got that on there.
If the county just kept a trailer out
Contractor
there
shall
and had him
transport
throw it
sorted
in.
recyclables to the Southeastern Indiana Solid Waste District. So
Okay,
that's Sear.
yeah.
Yeah.
so I'm guessing, I would guess that, so Jefferson has to give them some kind of dump receipt or something.
It's not been going over there.
It's not, we don't.
It is
we know
now.
it's not.
But I know, but I'm saying that's, if we called and said, give us the receipts for the last 2 years, 3 years that he's dumped.
You ain't gonna find one.
No,
But I can
But if
tell
we
you
have that from the, that's what I'm saying, if we have that from them, then it's
But there is one now.
black and
That's
white.
why we
Right, I
need a
get
good
that.
Corrected for now,
contract.
if we wanna change, we can change, but that's
Right.
there should be something over there every week now showing that we're taking it over there.
Well, I'd venture to say that the recycle place in Jefferson County has to show for their records
Right.
an invoice or something they're handing to every
That's what I'm
person that's
saying.
dropping stuff.
Yeah,
Here's
a
your-
dump receipt.
Here's your receipt.
Yeah.
So,
And you ain't gonna get it.
Well, he's not gonna deny that he takes it over there. I mean, that's
No, I
not,
get that.
he's not gonna deny that, that's not necessary.
but we've been paying him a
Well,
lot of money for the
I
last
understand, but
3 years.
I've talked to him in the years past about this. I said, well, would you take a cut on that? Well, yeah, nobody said anything about it.
Well,
All you gotta do is ask him, and negotiate the contract.
when's that
and move on.
contract due? After when?
It's
It's got an
just a-
auto renew clause, I think.
Just yearly.
I think you could literally talk to him anytime and then just
Well,
always
I'm-
look at the date.
so
If he
that's-
signed
I
it
guess
in
that's-
October,
I mean, if nothing else, I would ask for a reduction in the one side, but I'd still like to have receipts showing that you're even doing it. You know, it's like, it's almost like goes to one, I mean, are you doing it or are you not doing it?
well, and then I'm gonna say this, what if the expenses on the other side for trash hauling? I mean, we were just talking about fuel going up, cost
Oh,
of
yeah.
vehicles and things, I mean, that one side could go up, and the other one could go down, and you're
But it
cutting
still
off one
doesn't
end of the cloth
cost-
and sewing it on the other.
It still doesn't cost him anything to dump it at our site. It's just costing us to make Ecotech take it away, so.
But if you just get an updated contract, you can line all the fine points out and do your thing, if you still wanna go with that vendor, and if, again, it's up to you guys, but it's.
All right, next subject.
I'm gonna jump ahead here, because we got a county employee here that's been here for one item, so we're gonna jump down, is it salary ordinance?
Yeah.
Let's jump to the 2022 salary order so we can get Kevin out here.
Oh, sorry, Kevin.
You're right.
All right, highway department position to stay bookkeeper and Kevin stay on the road, not hire another man, or Lori go back to admin and Kevin do bookkeeping. He said that they're gonna have a lot of paperwork, so Lori is at 1917 right now as interim bookkeeper. So I suggest, Kevin said he's not gonna hire any more men, so I would suggest that we keep Lori and make it
Just,
high, or are we gonna
she just be listed as a bookkeeper.
Right.
Yeah.
make Lori bookkeeper out there and then,
We're taking the interim thing off.
yeah.
Right. And
And
then
keep
we'll
her in that
remove
position.
administrative assistant, cause that
'Cause-
won't be a position.
Well, actually, I'm gonna say something about that, because I agree with all that. I think what happened before, which I think she should have already been at that level. I think before was when, the last superintendent left, and I'm saying before Jill took on some of that paperwork that she should have gave
Mhm.
to Lori and been, the highway superintendent, not highway superintendent
And grants
slash,
and,
I'm
yeah.
doing reports, or these reports, so I'm all for whatever he's on, so he's doing a hell of a job.
You just go ahead and motion, can we motion
Yeah,
it?
you can move to approve your salary ordinance with the administrative assistant being removed and change the bookkeeper and the highway from interim to bookkeeper.
So she's going to bookkeeper.
Yes, at 1917 an hour.
Dropping the admin.
And then I'll get with the commissioners to get her updated job description.
You good with that?
All right, do I have a motion to approve and change it to bookkeeper at 1917 for Lori?
I'll second that.
Who motioned?
I didn't.
Oh, sorry.
While you're talking.
I can't hear your hand. And Donnie second?
Coming close to your head, or you would.
All right, all in favor?
I'm just glad you talk so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, sorry.
I did.
I didn't know
Bye-bye.
what you were here for.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Can we do mine real quick too?
No,
No,
where are you on?
health department.
The sanitation, I just
Sanita-
need to add, cell phone to my 2020 budget so I can pay my monthly, sanitation, 10 cell phone. Because we added that in at the end of 21, and so it wasn't in my 2022 proposed budget. So I just need to add that line item. And then I'm not gonna do an additional right now, I need to see how it works out.
Is this it is a burner phone, isn't it?
Mhm.
So, I mean, if he doesn't use minutes, he's not add minutes, so it's not really a set number that's gonna be every month or every.
No,
it
it's
could
gonna be cheaper.
I mean,
Cheaper than our $50
That's right.
stipend.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
but that's where I'm getting at, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like $100 a month, it's,
You add minutes as needed.
yeah. So, I mean, if he doesn't answer the phone, then it's never gonna cost us anything.
It'll be good, it's just the rate.
I thought, didn't we create line item last time?
Did
For
we-
21.
we
But
did
it
that.
didn't make it to 22, it was after budget.
We did
All
that.
right, so do I have a
Create
motion to
21.
create a line item for sanitary and cell phone?
In health department.
And 11.
Motion? Lindy,
Did you hear it?
second?
Who's second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Thank you guys.
Are you good?
No, I'm not good.
Are you opposing?
Yes, I'm opposed.
4,
That's all right.
You are
1.
opposed?
Eric.
I'm opposed. I don't need cell phones.
It's
You won't
over.
fight you won't fight the $50 a month one, but
Have
you'll
a
do
good
the,
day.
Thanks.
the burner?
You guys need to order some lunch. You're gonna be going.
Hey, bring us back something.
No, if,
All
they
right.
don't get fed, they'll get billed.
I need more.
Sanitary and
Don't-
sewer fund,
Don't call me
salary
for county
ordinance.
business on my phone. I need a county phone.
We're getting ready to discuss that. All right, countywide vehicle inventory.
Oh, do we wanna, that'll tie in with Jeff
We
then,
got
the
enough.
minivan.
There's
It's
enough
down there
for
in the list too.
Well, we can go ahead and do that one.
Let's get Jeff.
Where'd I put it?
I've got an
Actually, it's
updated,
what it is that it's an MOU and under,
An interlocal
yeah,
agreement.
it's interlocal agreement, yeah. Between, Scott County School District 1 and 911, actually two, the Scott County Commissioners. They
What's it go-
gave an old athletic van to, the county to, use through EMA for a command center, free of charge. They were getting rid of them, so they gave, actually they gave one to the Austin Fire Department, gave one to us, so. We just need to, I think we approved it at our meeting the other day that, to enter the agreement, it just needs to go through you guys, I guess, as well.
So is it gonna be worth our keep and insurance and,
Before we had that District 9 trailer, and I got rid of, I sent it to another county, I sent it to Jefferson County, because we were responsible for the upkeep. And it needed tires, a new roof coming find out, and, the vinyl replaced for canopy. So we're not really gonna be out as much as we would have if we'd have kept that.
Do you know what the difference is in insurance between that trailer
We
and
didn't
the,
own the other one.
and the
Yeah,
minivan?
we didn't own it. We
I'm
didn't.
talking insurance.
I'm not sure. I would say that the only thing you would have to do for this, it's 2002 bus. I would, and I don't know how the insurance works, but I would say liability would be fine.
and it's fleet coverage, and so it'll just basically wipe out, cause whenever they audited us, we had the Jefferson County trailer. And then this will just replace it in the
So this
fleet
command
count.
center, so you drive it, it's stationary, it's not, right?
It's only gonna be used for emergencies and like.
But I'm saying when you get there, it's parked, it's stationary, you
Yeah.
don't use it to,
It's not gonna have.
Transport.
lights or siren or anything like that. It's just gonna have tables and radios, so we can set up a mobile command.
so how much do you have to put into it to make it usable for you?
I've got all the equipment. So it's not gonna cost us anything. Other than, I would say liability insurance and getting it registered.
Didn't we have the insurance on that other one though?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, cause,
That's-
and I think it was titled in our name, cause I had signed the title already.
It's a wash. It's okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much a wash.
It is a wash. I'll make a motion to approve.
They put a paint job on it.
Grab it.
I know a guy.
I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna cover up the Austin name and the Eagle, and that's it.
Well, get it camouflaged, if you, get it camouflaged if you want it.
He can make that.
all right, Donnie, motion to approve.
So,
I'm done, keep it second. Yeah.
Because it's a wash.
Raymond second. All right, we're talking about vehicle inventory next, so all in favor?
Did you vote?
Are you opposing?
I'm opposing.
What'd you do, Ray?
I vote for it.
4-1, Eric opposed.
Yep.
Well, we're used to that.
Never gonna get rid of anything, we keep adding.
We're getting ready to get rid of it on the next one.
Next, I'm holding my breath.
All right,
Well,
countywide
wait a second,
vehicle
yeah.
inventory.
If we're getting rid of it, you're just.
What is our count on vehicles?
Don't ask.
We
I'm
got
just- I'm
39 at the
I'm
sheriff.
just gonna throw it out there, cause I don't have hard numbers with me right now, but I do have some numbers that I know, are close. Went out And let me back up a second. Not every department has a vehicle. Let me get that clear, because, you know, we do have a vehicle for the maintenance guy here. We do have a vehicle for our IT guy, and the reason being is that he travels to every county building in the county to do stuff, and it wasn't, to me, it's a liability for him to be in his personal vehicle doing stuff for us. I mean,
Yep.
so, he has that. I think, the prosecutor has 2 vehicles. And again, probably since the beginning of the time that I was a commissioner, I've asked for at least his investigator to have one, because he was using his personal vehicle to drive around investigating crimes and stuff for the prosecutor, which I thought was, he should be doing that in his personal vehicle. It should be a marked vehicle so that they know he's an official person.
Prosecutor doesn't need to be commuting in a vehicle.
Well,
So that's just my point.
the other part of that is that the prosecutor and deputy prosecutors go to other counties to testify or to have trials in other counties that are moved out of this county. They were using their own personal vehicles. So once again, you got a person that's on duty traveling for the county in his own personal vehicle. And yes, you could say, well, it's been done for years. Well, again, if I was that person, I'd say I'm not going, because if I have a wreck and I've got 3 other prosecutors with me or employees with me and they get hurt, I'm on duty, I'm on work, but my insurance will take the hit for the accident. I think that was a thing to do. I think they have the correct cars. I think every department that has a car, Ben Petty's got one with the inspector. I really don't know how many's at the corrections department. At one time, I think there were 4. I think there might be, Don, you might be able to know here.
It's 4 or 5.
But my whole thing with them, and this is probably gonna be controversial, but you guys do very few drive-arounds anymore to check and see if somebody's at their house, so why do they have 4 or 5 vehicles? And in the past, we didn't have that technology. You had to physically drive within a block of their house to know if they were there or not. Pretty much a drive-by. I mean, so you were constantly out on the road with these vehicles. I don't think they do that too much anymore. I think the technology is pretty good to where they do it from over here. So there might be a reduction that we could do there. The highway department, Kevin, I know he just got it left, but Kevin has, in the last couple of weeks, got rid of several vehicles down there and equipment that has been sitting back there for years that we're not paying for, because most of it wasn't on the road, but he's got rid of a lot of his surplus, and he's gonna get rid of some more. But I don't think they have that, as far as dump trucks on the road or pickups on the road, I think they're in line with how many people they got working there. And I think EMS has got, I think they got too many ambulances. I mean, if we're only running 3 full-time ambulances, and then we need a backup for that, I think 4 ambulances, 5 at the most, because we have an older ambulance that Jeff used to have that was gave to him for the same thing that the school just gave him. But it was still a viable ambulance that is still in good working condition, so we took it back out there, and it's gonna be a spare in case something happens with one of the ambulances and has to be serviced or something, we can put it in service. So we're looking at getting rid of one of the new ambulances, or I say new ambulances, the 2019. We do have a couple of fillers out to a local ambulance service. I don't know if they're interested or not, but we're talking about at the last commissioners meeting to put it on auction.gov or whatever it is, where Kevin's been selling his stuff. He's seeing stuff's going sky high right now. I do know that ambulances are bought right now that for other counties and stuff, that they're out a year, and actually, so they're not gonna be production, you know, there's not gonna be a big production of ambulances, so people are looking for ambulances, so hopefully we can get rid of at least one of those ambulances, recoup the money, put it back in EMS's fund, and be able to shore up their money a little bit. Getting to the big one, and this is where, Raymond, you said that we approve all purchases that goes through county government. That is really not true, because the sheriff can buy a car through the commissary and not go through county government. Now, the title comes to the commissioners, but those vehicles can be bought through his fund, not through our funds. So with that, over the years, for instance, and I'm gonna talk about cars, trucks, vehicles that are what I consider are deputy vehicles that are on the road, that are, you know, traveling, you know, doing either, officer's duties or whatever, day-to-day stuff, not transport vans or, you know, these specialty vehicles that he's got from the military or anything like that. I'm talking about vehicles that a deputy, the sheriff, the chief deputy, or not, you know, matron or whatever can drive. There's 20, to my knowledge, 20 full-time deputies. That includes the sheriff, chief deputy, and everything else. I counted 42 vehicles that are trucks, a pickup truck, which is what they drive, a Charger, a Suburban, or a Tahoe, not a Suburban, a Tahoe, Crown Vic, those type of vehicles. I counted 42, and there's only 20.
Sorry.
Only 40. There's only 40.
Shocked her.
There's only 20 full-time employees, and that includes the 3 resource officers. I'm not saying that there's not a flexibility that you need more than 20 vehicles. I'm just saying that I don't think we need 40 vehicles. And that's why a couple of years ago, I asked when we got dinged about $5,500 extra for vehicle insurance, because we went over our fleet plan, that we need to reduce that. I know people have asked to have that reduced, and it seems to not happen. So I have, and I don't have it with me today, I didn't come prepared, I guess, but I have a list of what new vehicles have been bought in the last, you know, umpteen years, and I know how many used vehicles that are, you know, been either wrecked or discarded or sold or whatever. But my whole thing here is that I don't think we need to have a super fleet of vehicles that, especially if we're paying insurance on them. And if we, and also I'm gonna say this, and it's probably controversial, but I don't think that everybody that is employed needs to have a vehicle to drive. And a couple months ago, the commissioners actually passed an ordinance to reduce take-home vehicles for part-time employees. And that's for every part-time employee in the county. That's not just one department or whatever, that's everybody. So, you know, I say that because I know that there are people driving cars and outside this county that are part-time employees, and that, to me, waste of gas, liability, you know, and actually, do they need the car? So anyway, and I know John used to be the sheriff, and he even acknowledged how many cars he had when he was sheriff, and I think we just have, I think over the years, we just kind of let it get away. So I think we need to, as a county government, we need to come with some sort of, here's how many cars we're going to allow you to have, and here's what we're going to pay for, or here's how many we're going to insure. Because if we can't get the department head to reduce their fleet size on their own, then I guess we need to reduce that for them, so that's, I've done a lot of talking, so anybody.
Can we not go into, Tammy, not Eric, and say, hey, all this stuff would have to come to the purchase order? To where if anybody bought something with their county money, they would have to come before us, and we just notify the businesses. If you don't have that purchase order, you're not gonna get paid. Well, no matter what department it is.
You guys have the authority to do pretty much anything you want
But it
to.
would come back over to you guys too.
And you can
It's a money
say, if
problem.
no more vehicles purchased from inventory, from commissary,
Well,
The,
unless he can state a need for something to be bought.
And I think that's true for.
I mean, everybody wants to
Well,
give
I
That's true
mean,
for any
power
department.
away,
I'm
but
just
we've
saying
gotta
that
take
for
some back.
I want to
somebody with
clarify,
purchase, they had to come and get a purchase order,
but with
signed by
commissary,
us.
but with commissary, you don't have to do that.
I don't,
I
So,
think on the
I want to check.
commissary,
well, John would know.
I think on the commissary, and I'm not sure if the council or commissioners,
I want
can
to check
limit
the
what can be
commissary.
bought on that thing, out of the commissary.
Say it
There is a
again.
state
I
law,
didn't hear you.
the law pretty much tells you what you can buy.
Yeah, it does,
Anything that goes beyond that law,
it
Well,
does.
equipment and
Equip-
vehicles is one of the,
yeah.
it's on that list.
But
You can
what
buy a
we-
car,
Right.
But what you
know.
guys can say though is if any vehicles are bought with commissary, the county is not going to insure them.
But that's where I'm getting at, is that if someone wants to go out there and buy something, where I'm getting with what I consider a fleet, you know,
What is our fleet
a
number?
designated
How many
fleet
can we
number
have in
for
our-
each department
You
is
can have
that
as many as you want.
you're designated to
No,
have
but how
20,
much-
say
what's the
26
top
cars.
number on
And
ours?
I'm talking 26 vehicles
vehicles
that deputies are gonna use on the
So,
road,
I mean,
you
you want
know,
to know that
not
we have
the
right
transport
now,
vans
Like
and
the
all
number
this
of
other
vehicles,
we currently have.
That's where
right
so
I'm
they
getting
just
at
charge
is
a
that
premium per
I'm
vehicle.
saying that
There's not a,
if you say, here's X many, here's how many cars we're
During the
gonna
course
insure,
of the-
you can buy whatever you want,
Year-end
but
inventory.
we're not gonna insure it,
And
you
they
know?
bill you for the
And
next
if
year
you
according to what
buy
you closed
one
the
to
year.
replace one,
Then
then
they
get
pay
rid of
you
the other one
another
that
year
you
with
are replacing.
pluses and
Right.
minuses.
But-
And
Not
No.
intermingle,
Still are
not
close
intermingle
to
the
what you
commissary
had
ones and the
before. You
county
may
ones,
not
so if you
even
get
get
rid
a
of the
premium
commissary
change
vehicle
because
that's bought
you're
with
staying
commissary, it
within.
replaces
But
with
if
the
you
commissary,
opt
you don't,
in, you're probably gonna get a jump
you
in
don't
premium
intermingle.
because they audit
And
you
anything
from
that
year to
comes
year.
with the,
So,
you
and
know, in
sometimes
that
it's not
commissary
just the
vehicle,
number, it's
if you
the
wanna put
type of
equipment on it,
vehicle
that comes from
happens
commissary
later.
as well,
They
it's
said
not
our
county
premium
money,
difference,
it's,
Richie told
We
me
do
that
not
our premium
have to sign
difference
a
from
title.
last year to
Yes,
this year
sir.
had to do with highway vehicles.
For what?
More than anything, because of certain ones
Dump
they
trucks?
thought
We
was
don't order, we don't have to
classified.
sign.
Oh, yes, we don't
But now,
have to.
we, I
No.
think
I
we've
mean,
got,
we're not
like,
forced
it's
to
either
decide
105 or
what's gonna happen
100
Right.
because it can't be
total
moved.
Right.
You're
items
right,
on
John.
our
Yeah.
list.
I'm just
Of course,
saying,
there could
but
be
what
trailers
happens is, and
and, you
this,
know,
Raymond, you're right
odds
to,
in it,
to
tractors
send
and
earlier
different
when you
things, you know what
said
I'm
we
saying?
approve it. But the sheriff
But
comes in and
I
says,
can
hey, I
give you
want,
the latest
I mean, he has done
inventory
this
list
in
from
the
Lisa
early
before you
days.
get, okay.
He did come in and say, hey, I'm gonna buy a car out of commissary. And we'd say, okay, you know, we approve that. But there's been a lot that has not went that way, but the titles do come through and have to be signed if they're gonna drive them, but.
And if you don't do it,
That's correct. If we don't sign, like John said, if we don't sign the title, but in the past, they got signed.
Well, then, I won't give an example.
you don't mean I was right.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean,
I won't give an example of what happened last meeting was, he came in and said he wanted a vehicle, and he wants to purchase it out of the commissary, actually, I think it was 2 vehicles or something. And, we told him, you know, yes, but you're gonna have to get rid of some vehicles. And the getting rid of the vehicles never happened.
then you
But the other thing,
follow up
what
and say that-
is, since we're in a joint session here, one thing I would like to ask is that, and I know maybe hindsight or in the past or history or whatever, it's been kind of different. What I'd like to see happen is if a department head wants to purchase something or wants to do something like that, that they come to the commissioners first and get our approval, and then they come to you and
we've
ask.
been
for
trying
money.
to do that.
I know
That's
We've
what
been
it's working for.
But see, we get the opposite. We get them coming to us and going, well, we've already been to the council and they approved it. That's
No,
that's butt backwards. I mean,
Hopefully, we've been cutting that
Yeah.
down as much.
and I appreciate that, and that's, but I'm asking you as a board of commissioners, to, if they come in and ask for something, tell them you're
And
at
we,
the wrong
and we
place
have been,
first.
we have been.
but that's where I'm saying is that, but what happens there, I think, is that something gets bought out of something, then comes in and they ask you to reimburse them, and I nip that, and you know what, so.
No, we didn't nip it last time, but we'll.
Yeah.
And you use it.
Hopefully I'll encourage everybody to do nip it this
Did we
time.
not start going purchase orders on all these large items?
We've never, in my knowledge, we've never had a purchase order
But we
system
can,
here. You could technically ask, have purchase requests, I mean, if that's what type of form you want, and give everybody, all the departments a form, and if they've got a fixed asset request that's over $15,000, which is what we have to report to State Board of Accounts, because that's our policy, is 15,000 and over, that they could fill out a form and have it in a meeting, just like your other requests.
I think
So here-
what solves this issue real quick is that
That'd be
if
attractive.
we limit how many, every department, we limit how many cars every department has, and says, here's either here's how many employees you got, and they all can't drive 40 cars, or because you only have 20. But everybody shouldn't be driving a car. I mean, and if we reduce that, we can reduce our insurance, we can reduce our gas, we can reduce the maintenance on the vehicle,
And as a council with specific to commissary, we shouldn't be reimbursing anything that is bought from commissary. That, nothing that is bought by commissary should be reimbursed by the county. Because that's what that commissary is for, to buy it. He can use it for anything, but I think payroll, and there might be a few other things, but, yeah, but I mean, he has it pretty much wide open. So if he wants to buy a vehicle with commissary, then he's gotta title it, tag it, insure it.
yeah, but he can't do that.
I know that.
That's up to you.
I know that.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, because as a council, I don't think we should reimburse anything
No.
that's
Well, I get
bought with
that, and that,
commissary.
but I think settling how many vehicles it is just a number of saying, how many do you.
Is he gonna agree to
Because
that?
you're not gonna, well, but you're not gonna get a department head to tell you, just like employees, oh, I need every one of my employees. They don't need all their employees, I mean, but that's them defending their department, and the same thing's gonna happen with cars. If you say you only need X amount of cars, they're gonna say, well, no, I need, because this one has to have this to do this, and this, and this, and this, and I just think there's too many cars, out there, just like the one I just signed the title for that was wrecked. I never even knew that car got wrecked. I mean, but I just signed the title because it got totaled. But, the person that was driving it, I don't know why he was even driving it, because he drives it home.
What department was that?
It's sheriff's department. And he drives past Eric's house all the time. But anyway, the point of it is, I think it's easily fixed by just dictating or coming to a number that we feel comfortable with for each department to have vehicles and say.
Sheriff's
here's how
Department,
many
maybe
cars-
4 more in case.
Well, if you have
Four-
20.
four
if you
over
have
your
20
employees.
If you have 20 full-time employees, you have X amount of pool cars, and that's what you got. And that's what we're gonna insure. And if you need to either auction the rest of them off or go to auction gov or whatever it is.
So what,
and
there's
say-
7 part-time employees, so if we had,
Yeah, but all those guys aren't, if they're not driving them home, then they can actually, come to the.
well, that's what I'm talking about. If we had 2 extra in case
Well, you got
something should happen in a
maintenance.
chase and something happened, and then we had 3, maybe like 4 or 5 extra, not 20 extra.
I don't know what that happened. I have a number in my head, but I've looked at it so much that I know what my number is, but my number's close to 26. And that,
That's what I'm saying,
again,
5 extra in case you
again,
get
that doesn't
a couple
include
in a
the
wreck,
two,
and then.
the vehicles they use to
transport.
transport the prisoners that do these, mow yards and do that stuff.
These are just strictly
These are
road
vehicles that are for deputies and office workers, and, I mean, it seems like everybody's got a car. I mean,
Yep, we've been talking about that for a while too.
And I mean, this isn't a vindictive thing, this is, and it came to head when we were when we got the escalated bill for the insurance, and I said, how many cars do we have out here that are insured? And Tammy printed us a form, and I mean, we got a lot of vehicles, I mean, and actually, we have a lot of trailers that are $3,000 trailers that we were insured had full coverage on, that we didn't need to put full coverage on.
Yeah, 108 items is quite a few.
But, I don't know how we ask and get that resolved without saying that, because everybody's gonna say they need them, but
Guess I
without
call
saying,
Jackie
here's what we're
Clements,
gonna do, here's how many
see
you're gonna
how they
have.
go about it.
And that's what it's gonna be, live within your means, so.
Well, here's one way to do it, carry this around.
The Bible,
Yeah, this says we're either gonna have to cut or we're gonna have to raise taxes. And so I'm not gonna raise taxes, any vote that I'm involved in, and so we're gonna cut. And so you can open that to any page you want to, and it's all in red. We're getting broker all the time, more broke. And,
I was under the impression we couldn't raise taxes, so that's not an option, right?
no, you raise taxes.
I thought they said we
You
all
raise that LIT tax, a local income tax.
it's not an option on my vote. It's not an option.
It's not an option.
It's not, right, it's not an option anyway, but.
You thought it was.
The only thing you can do with property tax is basically rearrange the same chairs on the same ship. You can have 5 sitting on this side and 2 sitting on that side when you might have had 3 and 3. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so
Yeah.
If we have 100 new houses moving to Scott County, the property taxes for everybody in Scott County are gonna go down. They're
The
not-
rate will.
Right, they're not gonna, we're not gonna pay more money. They're gonna, everybody's gonna get worse.
That's what I'm talking about.
You got a bigger piece of bread just Crane, you got a bigger piece of bread to spread your peanut butter.
Anyway,
We'll work on that. I'll call Jackie Clements and see what other counties have done to
$15,000.
keep them at bay. All right, county cell phone stipend. We need to talk about, at budget time, it doesn't seem like $50 a month is a crazy number, but once we got the total, it's almost 200 and some $1,000 that we pay for people's cell phones. So I think we need to evaluate who needs one and who is mainly in the office that may not need one all day. And then if we have to, do a little survey on how many calls they take on their cell phone. So if they want to get the stipend, then they can keep a log and how many phone calls they get. And most of them say, you know, since they're on call all night, we could average out the calls that they get after work and see what, I mean, it's just a good place to start cutting, is the cell phone stipend.
I didn't hear a word that you said except for.
Thanks for talking.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I said the cell phone stipend.
Oh, yeah, what's better?
We need to evaluate who really needs them,
There's the first thing.
who's using the most time, like if they have a call after hours,
I'm trying to.
and see if that equals out to the payment that we're paying, and then go from there.
I agree.
Because we've got to cut down on those, because it was quite a big number, almost 207,000 at budget time.
Can we just tell them that
Because, I mean,
going forward, this is a bring your own device
well,
county
we said that the commissioners need to, when they do job descriptions,
from here on out?
go on with that and just say that, you know what your job description's gonna be, and your device is part of it. I
Can we
mean,
phase
if you have a cell phone and you wanna use your cell phone,
Can we phase out the cell phone stipend?
I say we get rid of it. I mean,
Let's get rid of it.
unless it's like the people that have to have it, like maintenance. Somebody that's not in their office all the time, that we have to get a hold of.
But that's the whole purpose of bring your own device, you know what I mean, if we're getting rid of the cell phone stipend,
But like IT,
How many?
you call him on his phone, I mean, as part of the job.
He actually though has
How many?
his count, Andrew, from his phone, isn't just about a phone call. He can actually turn on the locks at the courthouse, he can unlock things. He uses it like a computer as well, so that's kind of where we.
And I understand that, but most
Yeah.
people do use it as a computer nowadays.
Right,
so-
but it's just the,
I've interacted with Andrew several times. Let me ask you this question. How many people have a cell phone?
a lot.
210,000 more.
But I mean, how many people is that?
Well, we've got 3 at community corrections, cause they all say that they're on call all the time. But I mean, it's not like it used to be whenever we gave stipends, that was when cell phone bills were $100 if you didn't have unlimited. And if they were using them. Now, a bill is $35, $45 for basic, unlimited. So $50 is even,
I get that.
it's crazy amount. Can you look it up? How many people have cell phones? Please. Well,
As
I
far as
might,
community
Well,
corrections.
I have my
as far as-
wrong notebook.
When I worked community corrections, we used our phones, and we were on call 24/7. We used our phones. It was part of the job.
They all have them, probation, upstairs judges, I'm pretty sure we give them a stipend. You guys have stipends.
Here's my non-Republican answer. All right, it's a very non-Republican way to look at something. The most valuable person, the most valuable asset, we have in this government is our employees. We're not giving them any raises. We haven't given them any bonuses. And now we're talking about taking away some of their benefits. I think that needs to be looked at and thought about.
Well, they still make good pay and they have a job. So if we have to make cuts, a cell
Do
phone
they make good
stipend,
pay?
not everybody gets a cell phone stipend though.
I'm not gonna argue.
Our people make really good pay.
Now,
Compared to what?
and what you're saying are the employees, and yes, they are. But what she's saying is not every employee has a cell phone stipend, so I understand what
can't
you're
count that
saying,
as a
but you
benefit.
can't say that that's, because now we're gonna start pick and choose, and so
Right,
either
but
everybody gets one,
I would dare
or
say
not everybody.
that the people who do have cell phones are key players in that department.
But they're gonna have a
I would
cell
think.
phone
I
anyway.
don't know for sure, I'm just saying I would think. And them are the ones that you really want to not leave. And as far as pay,
But we need to
there's
do
people out
this.
there now paying $15 an hour for jobs.
Okay,
People are
but-
getting paid $27 an hour for a factory job.
Most of
But
our
in
people are
order-
making
but in order
19,
for us
20
to be
here.
able to give raises in the future, we need to do this now. So yes, it would suck now, but if we can cut and we can get back on track, then the raises can come next year or the year after. And they could possibly be significant raises, where we're just, and I'm not promising anything, but
I
this
mean,
is.
most
but
people
this
don't
is
get 50-cent raises every year
but
like
this
we've
is
given.
This is a place
every
to
year.
start, so that we can give those raises.
Well, I mean, it's your all's call. I
Yeah,
just
I
want to
know,
throw
this is
another
where we're
way
coming from.
to look at that.
Look at community corrections. Here, say you had 2 over that's got the phones. All right, if they don't have the phones, or if they choose not to answer their phone at night at a certain time, then they've got to get out in the car, use gas, and go to these locations that's being called in. They won't be able to do the job over the phone if they don't want to. And they're paid, it doesn't cost the county anything. Them cell phones is coming out of user fees. So it doesn't cost the county anything, but it will cost if they have to get in the car and go to the location instead of doing everything over the phone.
That's what I'm saying. If we kept a log to see how many times that actually happened, and it equals out to be $50. I mean, that's, like I said, most cell phone unlimited packages don't cost $50 anymore for one line.
If you got 80 people on community corrections, you're going to get calls
Now,
every night.
if community corrections comes out of their budget,
It comes out of the
out of
user.
their user fees, then that's not a community, that's a community corrections decision.
That's right, but I'm
And they
saying,
could
take
be-
it in consideration, because when they come and say, well, you're giving it to community corrections, but you won't give it to me, that's, well, it comes out of their budget, not out of the county's budget, out of the general fund. I mean, you gotta think about how you're gonna settle all that too.
We gotta figure out how to save some money, and that, I mean,
Right.
if somebody took my cell phone stipend away, I'm not gonna quit my job.
No.
I mean, that-
It's not- if
'cause
it's
I'm
not
already paying
costing-
for it.
If it's not costing us money for, say, community corrections, are you gonna take it anyway?
That's not, we can take it as a county, but then community corrections can come in and say, hey, it's already coming out of our user fee, and so as a community corrections, we're gonna give our people $50. I mean, why can't they do that?
They're already doing it.
Okay, so then.
And so, but what I'm saying is, so you're not including community corrections in this.
I don't
If
know,
it's
I'm
not-
just
if it's not
saying,
coming
we
out of
need
their
to,
budget, if it's not coming out of the county budget and it's coming strictly out of their user fees, then we have.
Yeah, the county cannot pay for community corrections.
Right, so,
It has to come out.
so that's a kind of a null and void. If that's the case, that's kind of a null and void. We're talking about the
Anything that comes
the
out of the
user-
general fund?
We're talking about the money that comes out of the general fund. We have to start cutting now so we can give raises down in the future, because we're not gonna cut money now. We're gonna go another 2-3 years.
Okay, I mean, that just needs to be,
we just need to start looking at departments then and
At budget time.
I tried to do something with cell phones 10 or 12 years ago. I don't know when, long time ago. I did a survey of cell phones in the county, and it was, don't remember for sure now, but it was like 70% of our employees had a cell phone that we were paying for. I don't believe that 2/3 of our people need a cell phone. Now, nobody had no help at the time, so nothing was done with it. So I think the first thing you gotta do is determine who needs a cell phone. And I think you'd see significant, if it's like it was then, and I suspect it is,
Well, I would definitely say 70% has it.
significant people don't
I figure
have
it's
a
only
cell phone that don't
one
need it.
person per department, or 2 persons per department.
And it's not always the department head either, because I think I think there's a nurse maybe at the health department that has one, because she's a county nurse.
70% don't
Michelle
need
doesn't,
phones.
yes.
Now, that's all there is to it.
Yeah,
My whole
that's-
thing here is, and I came in on the rear end of this, but, years ago, when the cell phone plans, you paid for minutes and you paid for, your service separate, and they weren't all unlimited plans. When a company would call an individual or an employee on their phone, that, you were actually taking minutes away from their plan. And now that all these plans are unlimited and you're not taking money away from their plan, or their minutes away from their plan, which is costing them money for you to call their phone, I think it changes the whole scope of the phone thing.
It could.
And I think that it also, when you look at the big picture, that book, taking away $50, yes, it's a benefit, but it's going to cost us a lot less, everybody a lot less in the long run, because if we're not cutting, and our option is to start raising taxes, which I'm not for. So, I mean,
I just
Well, I
want to
know.
be careful and
I know,
not
I
have
know.
employees jumping ship, because we need,
if they jump
if they
ship
jump
over a
ship
cell
over
phone stipend.
$50, if
well,
they're,
you
if,
say that, but I mean, if it's your people, you wouldn't be saying that.
But there's more people to fill those jobs, they would love to come here and do paperwork and scan and make $17, $18 an
How long
hour.
does it take to train somebody to do that job?
I just don't want to be held hostage.
I don't want no.
Never my wife ever
I don't
been
know if
held
it would
hostage
be
over
over.
somebody telling me, if you don't do this, I'm gonna leave. Well, see you.
Yeah,
And you gotta understand that too. I'd get tired of hearing it and say, wait, this is going.
if it wasn't such a big number at budget, it wouldn't have hurt so bad, but since it was,
But
like Teresa clicked on.
But I like to keep it
stipend.
around
looking at the
people up
money,
as
and that's
high
all
as
that we
good
were
as we
elected to
can.
do, is
That's
look
all
at the
that
money, so,
Right, you don't do nothing.
I understand.
It is a costly thing. I mean, and quite honestly, is the necessity there. And I think in years past, when I was paying for my minutes and you call my phone, then you better be paying me for it, or.
Call me
That's
after
what I said,
9.
if they have if we do a little survey type thing, and if they think that they deserve a stipend, we can knock it down to 35 or 40. I mean, just that little bit's gonna help. Or they can keep a log, and if they can prove that they're doing $50 worth of, transactions, or they're on their phone 24/7 after work and all that, then we reestablish something. But just to have your whole cell phone $50 paid, it's a big.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize it was 70%.
So if they
Quite
figured
a
out
few.
what it costs, I mean, anybody. figure
When we
out
were down in
what-
budget, Teresa clicked on
Cell phone.
the cell phone stuff.
It's
I don't
$600
know.
a month, I think.
Mandy's digging around in there.
Is she?
for everybody that's on.
I figured it
It
up
was
one
like
time, because
210,000.
when I first became a
Yeah.
commissioner, I thought, boy, this is
Isn't
gonna
that
be a
what you
big
said,
ticket
200?
item.
It was
We
$100 and
cut
something
out.
thousand, it was close to $200,000 on the
It is a big
thing
ticket item.
downstairs.
It wasn't
That's-
a
that's why-
monumental
that's why it's such a
amount. It
big-
is a figure. I think
Right.
it's,
Right, so that's
I'm
why.
gonna say it's $6,500, $7,000 a year probably. You know, maybe more.
I move to adjourn.
Oh, wait, there's one, did you guys do the highway vehicle trade swap? Are you
Yeah.
done talking about
We
that?
already did that earlier.
Okay.
We hit that one.
So who's gonna be the one looking into the phone deals and?
I mean, 2023 is already looming on us, so to speak, so I think if that's
I just
something
wanna
that you
talk-
guys are gonna key into
Talk about it
budget
before
time,
next budget, I guess.
in August, that's whenever I think if you have intentions of going that way in 23, of any kind of changes with the cell phone, because we don't have a policy.
If we
It's just a
get
budget item.
tight at the end of the year, I said we did it before, but,
Right,
I mean, if we have to
yeah.
go hunting up dollars, I just wanted to talk about where we could find them
How
and,
many people right now are getting a stipend? Yeah, I mean,
That's what we're trying.
Yeah, that's what
okay, we have roughly 200 employees. You're saying 70% of the people have.
Not me.
No,
No,
that's,
ain't no way.
that's what.
No way.
But here's the whole thing. Sometimes
I'm not
paying
saying,
for that $50 is
I didn't
even
say people had 70.
tedious for in here, because they pay so much out of the child support and so much out of the prosecutor.
I get it.
You see, so even pulling the $50 together, you may have $32.50 out of something and $17.50 out of another. I mean, it's so
If
intricate.
it's
So she's
50
looking, and I can send something out later to everybody if you wanna know how many people were paying cell phone stipends to.
$50 a person, and
Where's
if you
Teresa?
say 40 people are getting a stipend, that's $2,000 a month times 12, it's $24,000 a year. So that's 40 people doing it.
And I would say that number might not be too far, because you have multiple.
I thought it was.
Actually, you could go to the payroll or actually through our claims, and everybody gets a stipend and it comes off there.
She's looking.
I'm saying, I've done it once before, and like I said, it's a big.
hello, do you
everything
remember how
adds
many
up.
people had the cell phone stipend?
And how much it was.
Wasn't it almost $200,000?
What I'm saying, if they use it
It's like a-
for work, that's different than just having it.
But in the beginning, I mean,
Alright,
I
well,
mean, if you
we're
didn't have a
leaving
phone,
today,
that'd be
so,
different,
I
but
mean, we're almost done.
you know, and
I just want that number if
because I mean,
you
the
had a number of how many,
corporations do that to their
a
employees. all the
roundabout
time.
number.
They used to have phones for people,
Okay.
or pagers or whatever, and they got away from
All
them
right.
because it's just like
Thanks.
what we're doing.
Bye.
You got a phone, you're gonna use it, you're gonna answer it. I mean, just like, you know,
What'd you say?
people that carry
I
two
don't
or
have a
three
stipend.
phones.
Well, you can,
The biggest
how
thing
much
I'm
that
hearing,
cost?
I've done told.
$100 worth?
I take it back, I want that on my phone.
$100 worth.
Teresa's gonna pull a report and she'll email it to her.
It's fine, but it's upwards of, it's more than 20,000 and it's less than a year and it's less than 50,000, so we're not.
I had exact numbers.
Because there's a lot of things that we pay for.
I don't know
Kinda
what
ran
else she
through the
clicked on
phone
then,
line.
cause there was,
Because we have hot boxes, we have the county phone bills. So what she may have pulled up for phones, period, may have been the countywide phone
The other part of
expense.
that-
Does that make sense? Our monthly
I
bills and our.
thought because we were specifically talking about cell phones, so I thought that's.
Well, the other part of that is, when I pay when the commissioners pay the claims, I see a claim on there for AT&T. I see a claim on there for Verizon. So are we paying for, we have phones that are on different services, or we're paying, you know, services for this one or not for that one? I mean, sometimes it doesn't make any sense why we have multiple, we have 3 or 4 for AT&T, and then we got something for.
Well, you
Now,
guys-
granted,
you guys-
AT&T does multiple, or they could have, internet services or something they're providing, or those, you know, internet packs. But,
you
anyway,
guys don't
that's,
pay cell phones straight up, do you?
We
Or
pay
for
the cell phones.
Commissioner's phone phones?
no,
No,
that's just a
no,
stop.
no, they go,
No, we could-
stipends are gonna be made to the employees,
Right.
yes. And so that's
So
why it's a
maybe the
little harder to
different, the
look up.
different services are, does anybody have 2 phones?
No.
We don't have county phones anymore, do we?
The
issues.
sheriff's department has county phones,
But I mean,
and Mr. Bruner does now.
EMS has
And
three, I
EMS
think,
has
that
phones.
they're in their trucks, so that they can communicate, but they're all tied together from what I understand.
There's certain
I don't know
entities
why.
that have county phones.
So what's AT&T and what's Verizon?
That's what I,
It could be internet service in the remote places that we can't get it. So I'm gonna have to go look at those, because I don't look at those bills every month. I don't.
I'm just curious if we can. I mean,
We can pull them and see what they are.
And just because clearly we need to clean things up at Countywide, are we paying duplicate for, you know, if we're doing AT&T and Verizon, are we paying, what are we
No,
paying
I
for?
wouldn't think, I mean, I wouldn't
You'd
think
think
so
it'd be all the same
because
service.
it would be, yeah.
Was
But
it, was
I'm
it
just-
Andrew, didn't he come in just a year or so ago and then kind of cleaned all the
It was about,
lines up?
yeah, it was maybe about 6 years ago.
Well, I was in on the first one because, we was using, I mean, we was paying for lines over 911 that hadn't been used for years, and we still paying monthly on it. But Andrew or somebody come in behind after that, and we got such a better deal.
He did that, voice over IP or something, phone switch out. He had
Andrew.
saved significantly. I mean, it was like, I wanna say $30-some thousand a year.
Yeah.
Whenever he went and
Yeah.
cleaned everything back
why
up.
don't you guys vote on your thing or whatever you're
We
doing?
want to
I got one last thing I want
We
to talk
haven't done
about, and it
anything.
actually involves Andrew. Because, I guess the joint commissioners, the council has to adopt anything that changes the, handbook. Andrew, brought it to my attention that, and I don't know what department, because he didn't tell me, he just said he was upset that, he feels that the handbook is not clear enough to state the obvious, but I asked him to draw a policy that he wants for the computers, and what this is computers and software. And he's saying that he doesn't believe anybody should be adding software to the county IT
Oh, yeah?
computers without him knowing what it is. Because, you know, we could have somebody, a Trojan horse come in behind something that somebody's downloading. So he said the handbook reads that it doesn't read clear enough that says you can't do it. Don't add a software to your computer without going through him and him adding it.
I think the
Because-
handbook, because he talked to me about it, and it states that, you know, you're not supposed to, but it doesn't tell you who you get clearance
Yeah.
with before. It doesn't point to IT.
Well, we have to
Yeah.
change it. He's gonna bring it to the next meeting, a policy that how he wants it to read, and then we can either adopt it, amend it, or do it, but then it has to come to you guys because Tammy said, change the handbook, it has to be the commissioners and the council to change anything in the handbook. So he wants it made where no one besides him can add a program to our computer base.
Sounds good to me. That could cost us a
And
lot of money.
There should be a way that, you know, even if somebody tried to, it would stop them. I mean, I'm sure there's a program that he could do,
I
but
don't know, but he said it's happened,
I'm
and
sure it does.
he's, not very happy about it, so.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, I'll entertain a motion with the commissioners.
It might be one more thing,
All right, Paul Harvey.
Harvey.
Paul Harvey, one more thing.
is everybody dead set against giving the employees a bonus?
As of right now, yes.
Not everybody.
Not everybody.
I'm not against it.
I
Until we
just-
see how our
I
money's
just-
gonna pan out.
I just think for Austin and Scottsburg, they stepped up to the plate with their employees. And I'm not talking about elected officials, I'm talking about employees only, maybe an employee that's part-time that's got scheduled hours. And I think we started off 210 maybe employees, take away elected officials and everything, we're probably down to, what, 180 maybe? I think it's something to really consider, because they are the backbone of this.
We
county.
didn't veto it. We
Now,
just said we didn't
what I'm
wanna dip
doing-
into
what
that
I'm saying,
account.
I have a right to speak, and I'm just speaking my voice, and everybody else can speak their voice. I think it's the right thing to do, and that's my one man's opinion, is I think it's the right thing to do, to look at our employees and appreciate the work that they do. We have 4,600,000, say it costs us 500,000, and still got 4 million one. I know when Jason come in, he said we may have to use some of that money to do some catch up or whatever. But I just think it's something really good to look at and appreciate what they've done for this county, especially through that virus. We had a lot of people step up.
Isn't that what the meeting on Wednesday, isn't that guy coming down to talk or something?
About the ARPA
At the
funds.
3 o'clock.
Jason, and so,
Right, but what I'm saying, since we're here together
Oh,
in
okay.
a joint
I got you.
meeting, I'm trying to get this out to give us something to think about.
Well, I mean, we all agreed that we want to give a bonus, I think.
But
But-
that's the first I've heard of that.
When you said it the last time at the meeting, Donnie, and we all said yes, but not at this time. Because we need a game plan for that
I've
big
heard some
money
people say I'm
until-
against it because
until we dip into it.
that's fine. But since we're all here together, I'm just asking everybody to consider our employees on this bonus like everybody else is given. And I think it'll help the morale of the people,
They all jumped ship and used their money too fast, and now they're all regretting it.
and I think it'll just be a good, I think it'll just be a good thing to do.
Donnie, I'll agree with that, and, you know, I know a lot of people ain't going to, but, I know that in the trucking side of it, you know, my brother just lost a guy for $27 an hour, you know, and they're paying it, sit behind a wheel and drive a truck. Because, you know,
we just need to
We
make
can't-
sure that the money,
I don't think we can
Is-
afford to lose our county highway guys, and I'm just using that for an
and we're
example.
not, and I don't think
Because
anyone's
that's an
saying.
example that I know.
Donnie,
I'm
you're
sure
not
that
asking
the
for it
computer
today, are you?
and secretary
No.
industry is the same.
Oh, okay, I'm with you.
It's still on the table.
Yeah.
It's on our list.
In everybody's mind, okay?
Yeah,
And to be honest with you, a lot of people would love to come and work for the county. They would love to come and be here inside this courthouse or wherever you're working. I mean, this is just not an average job, okay? People love to come and be a government employee here. I just think it's the right thing to do. And one of the big things is because the other two entities did it.
That would make it right, though.
It don't make it right, Mike.
Well-
But it does, this money that you gotta give away, I think it's just a good opportunity.
Well, and I think we're gonna go about it the correct way. We're not saying no, we're just gonna go about it the correct way with, you know,
Understand.
because that's a lot of money and so
I
we
understand
just
that.
need to
But
get a
I'll
game
go on
plan.
record, I
But
wanna
yes.
give a bonus too, but I agree with you, we need to figure out the whole thing.
We need to make sure they still have a
We
job
talked-
and we
Last meeting, we
can,
talked about not going too fast.
Right.
Right.
And I think we need to do it, but we need to do it in a manner to see what the whole picture is.
Yeah.
So I think,
And to piggyback on that, at 3 o'clock next Wednesday, Jason scheduled it with the commissioners. Council was there and nobody at the time said make it a joint meeting, but it's
I'd like to be
open,
there.
but
I'd
if,
like.
yeah, with Baker and Tilly, I was planning.
Yeah,
okay, so if you want me to post it as a joint, because I haven't posted it yet, then I will, and that way council can show up and have questions for Jason, because there has been a final rule that has been issued since, really, not since the last time he visited, but the time before. So, and it's kind of changed the game, it kind of went along with the CARES type mentality that don't nickel and dime us to death, we can't handle the paperwork. If you're under a certain dollar amount, now you've got a little more leeway on how you look at your plan. The commissioners, one of their first steps is gonna be to amend the plan you drafted the first time and approved to reflect more currently how you want to go about distributing the monies that you'll send forward to council for appropriation. So that's the next task for commissioners, is to say, okay, now with this new rule, is this the plan we want to keep, or do we want to amend this plan to reflect more current thoughts? So that's where we're going to be Wednesday at 3, okay,
So
with
can you
Jason.
make- can you-
I'll post
can
it
you
as
make it a
joint. I can post it as joint, and that way, if 4 or more council people show up, we're safe. Okay.
And if we give a bonus, we're not talking about elected officials, correct?
No.
we're all in it, that's not on the table.
We cannot change an elected official's salary in a year.
So that's
Okay.
just December's?
I just wanna make sure that's
December.
clear on
Does not
camera,
include
because
That's why we,
we're not voting on our own,
So times
but we're
12.
on our own.
that's why they
The
always
$50
approve the
one.
elected officials before December
So that's the
31st.
100 and some
Because
thousand
once
that
the
each
calendar
one
year
has a
rolls
cell
over, you
phone.
can't change their
Does
salary.
include,
So
like,
there would be no
the
elected official money on the table at all.
Bright spots in
I
it.
just
So
wanna
that
make sure
wasn't
it's clear
just
on
cell
camera.
phone.
It
We were under
is,
the impression
no,
it was
it
just
can't
cell
be.
phone.
By
So it's
statute, it can't
around
be.
So
52,000.
it's still
Yes.
significant.
We're not federal
I
government,
would
we don't do that.
probably.
No, we're not gonna do that. No, we're not gonna.
I will get you that too, but
We don't
that's
want our
at
own
least your
ranges.
$50. Thank you.
Vets to come in here.
Thank you.
No, I don't wanna
Alright.
see them. I don't wanna
We're
see
all
them.
done.
Well, what about your all's,
Huh?
what about your all's lawsuit?
Uh,
Are you stuck on
what do
it?
you mean a lawsuit? We're talking about a lawsuit.
With the sheriff?
We need to be careful when we talk law.
There's no lawsuit, so
Okay,
there's,
good deal.
there's conversation. We're trying to have a conversation, so. It's probably, I mean, just for the public to know, I mean, the reasoning being that everybody wants to jump down the commissioner's throats about spending money for an attorney to sue the sheriff. When the sheriff quits communicating with the commissioners and does stuff that violates, our policy, violates area plan policies, then, and we're the, the executive board of the county is the ultimate responsible person here.
And state.
Just my opinion, I think we're talking about.
That's your opinion.
I know it is, and I'm just.
Well, I'm not going against you guys, and I'm not going against him, I just,
Keep talking now.
I just wanna save,
You are,
I just
not
wanna
me.
save
You
money.
tell me to shut up.
And if we need to go to state and do something else,
Anytime we talk law stuff.
But anyway, we're not talking.
I wanna hear what you gotta say, Rachel.
I'm just thinking money. And if we go to the state and find a different way,
Then
then,
I tell you what, if you're talking money, then ask the sheriff how he's paying for an attorney right now.
but we all need to have we need to have a lot of meetings.
Everybody wants to talk about the county commissioner's doing something, then ask him how he has an attorney and
Well,
who's paying for it.
We need to visit that department too.
So anyway, I'm gonna.
Hey,
Let me try to
we
answer
voted on the salary ordinance,
Uh,
that was.
On my part of it,
That
if
was
it costs any money,
the highway.
it will be whoever
What's
violated.
All right, we're done. Adjourn the county council
I wish
part.
we'd have worked it out a different way, because it's like you're
I
almost,
want to entertain a motion to.
you're like suing yourself.
Close the meeting.
Do we have a motion?
I motion.
Lindy,
I'll second.
Eric second.
I'm gonna entertain a motion to close the commissioner side of this meeting.
I think
I'll
that's.
second. I'll say that, I'll second.
Okay.
All right.
Caught up?
Turn that.
The computer off.
I'm
Yeah.
trying.